using the microphones nearby, or you could always stand up and use the rostrum. I will now pass over the session and the floor to Professor Dr. Zaliha. Go ahead, Doctor. You will have until 4:30. Thank you.
You can sit here. Go from.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, with the grace of Allah, we are here in this very beautiful hall, celebrating the learners of today who are supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow. When I was contacted by USAS whether I could accept to be the moderator of this session, immediately I said yes and sent them the info that I would love to be here. I grew up here for nearly 15 years, and I would love to come back and meet my old friends. And we had a mini reunion last night, but that is not the main purpose of me being here, except to take up the responsibility of introducing the speakers today. I want to save time because you have in your file the details of the speakers today, but what I wanted to say is, in relation to the learners of today who are supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow, you will see that the common thing about all of us is that we are involved working with young people. And we became young ourselves, at least in terms of spirit. And because of that, if I could say something which was said by Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric, he captured this thinking about the learners of today are the leaders of tomorrow in his book entitled Winning, when he said, before you become a leader, success is all about growing yourself. Right? So it's more of self-serving. But when you become a leader, success is all about growing others. So we see that to become a leader in the workplace, everything changes. Success is no longer just about personal growth. It is also about growing others, because the essence of true leadership is to see leadership potential in others and turn this potential into ability. The growth and development of people is the highest calling of leadership. I know that some are yet to settle down because there are still movement in this hall. So I'm trying very hard to capture your attention. But please be at peace with yourself so that we could open our hearts to, I would say, the journey that have been made by the three scholars. Before we go further, if I may introduce Tan Sri. I know him, Alhamdulillah, personally, and enjoyed all his talks, Tan Sri, and we kept calling him back to the International Islamic University to be part of our big family, to train our young leaders. But I would just say something about Tan Sri. He is the immediate past president of International Association of Universities, IAU, based at UNESCO Paris, after serving as the 14th president from 2012 to 2016. Currently, he is the chairperson, Board of Directors, Islamic Science University Malaysia, or what we call here USIM, after being the first holder of Islamic Leadership Chair and the Principal Fellow in USIM from 2014 to 2016. He is also an honorary professor at University of Nottingham since 2014. He is a member of the Advisory Board, Higher Education Leadership Academy, or ACAP, Malaysia. He was awarded the prestigious 2017 Gilbert Medal for long-term commitment towards internationalization and education for sustainable development as a public good. He received the 2017 Asia HRD Contribution to Society Award as a recognition for people development in the academic world. He had served as the 5th Vice Chancellor, President of University Science Malaysia from 2000 to 2011, and the World Health Organization Expert Advisory Panel on Drugs Policy and Management from 1995 to 2010, and WHO Scientific Committee of Tobacco Product Regulation from 2004 to 2006. Currently, he is the Regional Coordinator for Asia Pacific region in the International Research Project, reorienting education and training systems to improve the lives of indigenous youth, led by the UNESCO chair at York University, Toronto, Canada. He writes a weekly column for more than 22 years since 1995 for various Malaysian dailies. Please put our hands together to welcome Tan Sri. Please, Tan Sri. You may sit or you can stand as you like. This is a free country.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sleeping, greeting of peace and a very good afternoon. This is after lunch. I know it's difficult to keep awake, so I will try my best to entertain you with the title Learners Today and Leaders Tomorrow. Right? Let me start off by trying to explain what do we mean by tomorrow and what is the future for tomorrow, so that this is a context that I'm going to talk about. Two of my panelists, I think, are very strong on technology and IT, so I'll try to move away from those subjects so that I can give you something which is quite different. Normally, when we want to talk about tomorrow, we think of today, we think what the present looks like, and try to project what tomorrow looks like. And this is what I'm trying to do. We're trying to download what we think tomorrow would look like for us. Yeah? And it's in the morning, I think many people, including Royal Highness, talks about the future in the context of whether we can secure one. And I'm not too sure whether we can secure one when we begin to talk about what the future will look like once you understand what is the past. And the past, about 4 billion years ago, when the earth being created, at least when we understand it. And right now we are at a point where we talk about a very small portion of that period, which is about 1200 years, a kind of a period, what we call the present. And this present is called the Holocene. Holocene is a period where the world at that particular time was very stable, was kind of quiet, and the word Holocene means man building civilization on its own. And you can see a kind of a picture that was drawn, how peaceful it is. There's not too many people, not too many inhabitants, and men begin to realize their own potential and start to build what we call civilization today. And if you look at the climates are almost steady. There's no big, disaster the way we see it previously. And this is where we begin to start building our own civilization. But as we moved on, we begin to see what happens to the environment. We begin to see extinction. People talk about extinction, and these are the few species that begin to extinct when we begin to develop our own environment without regard to the natural environment around us. And as we develop more and more, we find that the number of species extincting becomes on an increase, as you see from that particular diagram. This is what we are today, what we call the Holocene sort of period, all right? But as we move along, as more and more population comes in, more and more cultivation goes on, more and more agriculture has been taking place, we find that we have moved into another period. And that period is now called the Anthropocene period. That is a period where man begin to destroy its own civilization. So as we move forward, the potential and the kind of prediction that we see, unless and until we change our behavior, the kind we treat our own environment, we are going to destroy our environment, we're going to destroy our own civilization. Yeah? So the topmost there is the Holocene period, and built on it is what we call the Anthropocene period. The Anthropocene period see a lot of development, a kind of great acceleration, they say. All the things that we've seen around us now is part and parcel of what we call the Anthropocene. And the Anthropocene, to my mind, is basically what represents the future. And the future in this particular context will not be very bright until and unless we do certain things in the context of learning, in the context of leadership that we're going to talk about in a few minutes' time. Now, to give you a kind of a long story about it, when we started, then we moved on, and this is where the future for us. As you can see, the graph now is going to be very steep. Depending on what we do, we can still save it, but if we don't change our behavior, we're going to go above what we call the irreversible period. And this is where the global warming, the climate change will take effect on us, and human beings as a species will eventually be extinct at the same time, right? But what is interesting as far as I can see, when we talk about the future, it is a future that we actually created when we use technology indiscriminately. 300 years ago, when we start with the first industrial revolution, somewhere in Europe, in UK, we find that we begin to use science and technology indiscriminately. At the end of the day, we create many things that we are unintentionally. And one of the things that we see today is basically the global warming, the kind of climate change. All can be traced back to 300 years ago when the first factory was built in provincial Europe. And that goes on to second, third, and now we are talking about the fourth industrial revolution, including the building of weapons, bombs, and so on and so forth, as a kind of a negative side effect from the invention that we learned from science and technology. This bombing, 6th of August, which is next week, we will be celebrating, quote unquote, or remembering, quote unquote, this anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the first and hopefully the only atomic bomb exploded during our lifetime, right? Now, what is more important, when we talk about the Industrial Revolution also shaped the kind of learning we've got. The kind of learning that we see today originates from the idea of what factory looks like. And this is a diagram that probably explains to us what our school system is all about, what our university system is all about. Basically, when we go to school, it is about filling things in our head rather than trying to encourage creativity, innovation. Mostly it is about a kind of an assembly line that you go into school and you get whatever knowledge. At the end of the day, you will talk about employment, employability, rather than innovation, creativity, and so on and so forth. I'll explain that a little bit more after this. Yeah? So assembly line becomes the paragon of what education looks like, at least in the moment in time, particularly in many developing countries. In developed countries, they might have changed. In developing countries, you are lucky to have a school, and you have a school, you are lucky if it's also an assembly line in this particular respect. Yeah? Sir Ken Robinson, who talks about this a lot, drew this particular diagram. And this particular diagram is very telling. As you can see, I don't know whether I can use this. Yeah? It says schools are organized like factories. Yeah? And the schools are organized like factories also in the sense that subjects are broken up into many, many pieces. You have science, you have arts, and you have then many other things that is broken down as far as science is concerned, physics, biology, chemistry. Now we talk about STEM and so on and so forth. Those are siloed subjects, which is no longer relevant in modern times when we talk about multidisciplinary, when we talk about transdisciplinary, when all these subjects should be converging into one and making a greater understanding of what knowledge is all about. Yeah? And it says their education is modeled on the interest of industrialization. We talk about, like I mentioned, employment, employability, economics, GDP. That is all what education is framed for us today. It is almost likened into a kind of a conveyor belt, that you move from classroom to classroom, get yourself taught as though it's like a factory. At the end of the day, you graduate, and then you get a certification for a particular employment and so on and so forth. Yeah? If I were to summarize this particular diagram, it looks something like this. We come into an institution called a school, and we come out on the other end with different sort of ideas of what education is all about. To me, I see a few things. One is we come in a diverse group. After going to the school, the way it is manufactured as a factory, you come out almost in a uniform conformity. You can call them engineers, you can call them doctors, you can call them accountants, but they are just one lump sum. The whole diverse understanding of what education is gone. Yeah? We begin to talk about education for citizenry. Now we begin to talk education about not so much citizenry, but employability. Sometimes they met very bad citizens. As long as they get employed, we are okay, right? At the end of the day, I think we also begin to see we are developing humanity not so much as a focus for education, but more on what technology is all about. Sometimes we forget about humanity when we talk about technology, and this is where we talk about wars and so on and so forth as an outcome of technology per se. So education, to me, by and large, if you go through this mode of learning today, it's not about education per se, the way I understand it. It's about training skills, it's about getting capital and so on and so forth. Indeed, the word human capital now is very much used as far as education is concerned. So that's the kind of education that we have today as far as learners in the context that we have now. And we begin to realize that some of these things are basically not an advanced industrial revolution model. This particular slides tell us that the learning experience in a factory-like manner, which is very passive, which is very structured, and is also very en masse, yeah, in big numbers like that, is basically the model that we derived 300 years ago from the first industrial revolution. When we want to translate into the fourth industrial revolution, so to speak, which is now being experienced in many places, the kind of characterization is quite different. We begin to talk about custom-made, active, self-directed, exploratory learning, which at the end of the day leads to the whole person development. It is not just about a particular part, but the whole person development, including multiple intelligence, including all the things that we talked about in the connectivity as far as education is concerned, using technology and so on and so forth. More importantly to me as a Muslim, we not only educate our brain, but we also educate our heart. That's a holistic way of educating. The balance between the mind and the heart, the balance between the mind and the soul becomes a very important subject when you want to talk about what the future is all about. And that's what this diagram is trying to show you. How do we transit from a model that is very industrialized 300 years ago to a model which is not industrialized but very human in its context, and taking the whole total human perspective into education, developing that human person, as it were. So this becomes a challenge as far as leadership is concerned. Most of the problem that we face today is how do you actually develop leadership characteristic in trying to meet that human person that I talked to you about. Yeah? Many people say the best way to predict the future is to create one. Creating one is perhaps more difficult than what I call to hatch one. Let's try and hatch one in this couple of minutes to say what sort of leadership do we need. Yeah? I'll contend with three things. We know Anthropocene will come. There's no question about it. There's already indication that the Anthropocene, where human being will destroy its civilization, will be there until and unless we start to change in a very drastic form. When you talk about Anthropocene, we are also talking about the kind of civilization that we're going to develop or destroy. So it has to be a civilizational outlook. It cannot be just a siloed outlook for a particular society or a particular organization or a particular, idealism or ideology. It has to be civilizational in its context. In other words, taking the whole planet, if possible, taking the whole universe. I've lost my slides here. Anyway. More importantly, I think we need to see how you can balance this whole thing together. Why balance is important in the context of leadership of tomorrow? Because you see, the world today, as you look at it, it is already imbalanced in its context. Whatever aspects you look at, economy. There's already a disparity between the rich and the poor. Oxfam just reported this year, after the World Economic Forum in Davos, 8 people, or 8 men to be very specific, own 50% of the world assets as it stands today. That's the kind of disparity that we see that's coming into the world. Yeah? Ecologically, I think all of us know what sort of disparity we see between the developing country, between the north and the south, all those things that we experience today in terms of climate change, the kind of disasters that we see, the calamities that we see, the disparity between the rich and the poor in terms of socio-economic divide, again, and of course, certainly, we talked about it this morning in terms of the kind of war, the kind of discord, the kind of aggression, the kind of skirmishes we see almost every day around the world. This is a signal for me that the world in itself is imbalanced, and how do you then put this back into a balanced perspective is a challenge. Yeah? Now, again, looking at this from the Islamic point of view, we learned about balance from what Al-Ghazali tells us in terms of what leadership is all about, using what he called the 4 principal virtues of wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. According to Al-Ghazali, these are the 4 elements that we need to be a proper human being as far as Muslims and Islam is concerned. And he defines this. If you can get wisdom, temperance, and courage to work together, at the end of the day, you will create justice, you will create the balance that you look for, not only externally, but also internally. And this is a model, I think, that we'll be developing for the leadership of tomorrow as far as USIM is concerned. And justice is then a definition that is a culmination of all these virtues that we talk about, whether it's wisdom, justice, or whether wisdom, temperance, or courage. If you can balance them, and you balance them the way we understand it from what religion teaches us. To be a moderate person, to be a person that has got that perspective of the middle path, you need to balance as many virtues as possible. The main thing will be wisdom, temperance, and courage. And that balancing act is part and parcel of the leadership characteristic that we are trying to develop at the moment in time. Right? So the kind of leaders of tomorrow, we will leaders that at the end of the day are able to seek balance in the context of justice, to bring back justice where it belongs. And this is the issue that we think about. Yeah? Now, just to give you a kind of a comparison, all of us know this is the heart. All of us know that the heart functions well. All of us know the anatomy of the heart. And all of us are trying to look after the heart as much as possible. You go to the doctor and doctors say you've got a heart problem, then you invest as much money as possible to make sure that your heart remains healthy and you are safe in that particular context. That's a physical heart that we talked about. In many other respects, there's another dimension of the heart that we hardly talked about, and that is a spiritual heart. The spiritual receptacle, because we can't imagine what it looks like. But again, reading from what the literature says, the spiritual receptacle can be understood just like the physical heart. There are different components that you need to understand. One of the components is certainly the component of wisdom, and it is defined as a condition of the soul by which it distinguishes between false and truth. People who are sensitive to the heart, that use the heart as a moral compass, could easily identify what is true and what is false, what is right and what is wrong. That is one dimension. The other dimension is when you talk about courage. What is courage? Courage is manifest in the soul when anger or desire is subordinated. Again, there is another way of trying to control yourself to get this balance as far as what is right and what is wrong, what is permissible and what is not permissible. Temperance is another concept that also makes this spiritual, as it were, a state of mind that disciplines the intellect and the law. In other words, the way we think and what Sharia allows us to. And how do you balance this is another mechanism. And these 3 elements, once they mix together, you have got what we call justice, putting the right things at its proper or the right place. Yeah? And then we begin to develop, in this particular context, what we call the cult-guided leadership, which is basically focusing on God consciousness. And these, I think, the kind of leadership for tomorrow, given the massive issues that we're facing as far as the Anthropocene is concerned, where we will eventually destroy the environment, provided we are able to look after it by actually safeguarding ourselves. Tomorrow's leadership will talk about how do we actually protect ourselves so that ourselves can then protect the environment around us. We start with our own self rather than starting with other people, as many other leadership theory will do. Other leadership theory will say you need to control other people. Our leadership theory says control yourself first before you go and control other people. Yeah? What is fundamental here, we are not only talking about just the brain. Again, many leadership theories just talk about the thinking, the reason, and the cognitive process. We are beginning also now to actually put this thing together so that there is a balance between the thinking process, the reasoning process, and also the feeling and the emotional process as far as the heart is concerned. How do you balance these two, the mind and the soul, the heart and the brain, as it were? That will be the kind of leaders for tomorrow, if we were to talk about whether we are able to secure the future. Now, within Malaysia, we have narrowed it down a little bit using our own context. Many people in the morning talks about the context. The context for Malaysia is this word sejahtera. In our philosophy of education, there is this word called sejahtera in that philosophy of education, but not many people pay attention to it because we do not have a grasp of what sejahtera is all about, and we are trying to define it in this particular model. Yeah? The sejahtera to us means three elements that is important, which is spirituality, which is ethics, and also which is emotion. The ethics part will govern the spiritual and the emotional part as far as that's concerned. That becomes a basis that values are built upon using the heart as the seat of intellect. All right? And once you get that on as far as learning and leadership is concerned, then we are on the way to actually use the cognitive process, the intellectual process, or the psychological process to build the behavior around it. And that means we are now able to balance up the kind of action that we use as far as the five senses is concerned, be it the eyes, be it the ears, be it whatever it is, in a state of balance. And that state of balance will remain in the context of the heart and the mind, the brain and the heart, the brain and the soul. Yeah? And this will be then allows you to actually lead into a different platform, be it the ecology, be it the economy, be it the culture dimension, and be it the social dimension. And all of this must be in a state of a balance, in a state of a mizan. And this is a model that we think will be relevant in the context of trying to secure the future, looking at it in a civilizational mode rather than just an organizational mode. Yeah? So I think on that note, I think I've run off my time. I would like to thank you for your kind attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Thank you, Tan Sri, for the wonderful lecture, of which you stresses on three important factors. I'm trying to, for some of our audience who are still coming in, and perhaps the timing of this discussion is a little bit not so good compared to the morning session, of which our eyes are so wide open. I remember in my younger days when they started the subject Islamic civilization, so we were, this one is after lunch from 2 to 3 o'clock, I remember. And we were like drooping, and then my ustaz would be saying, so all of you have been staying up for Qiyamul Layl. I said, no ustaz, we were like trying to understand your lecture, but the timing is very challenging. So for those who feel that this is very challenging as well, you can like sit up, stand up, sit down, you know, just do a little bit of movements so that your heart will keep pumping. Well, basically, I would just like to reiterate that he focuses on 3 areas. Number 1, where he speaks about natural environment, or what we call sunnatullah, right? You cannot stop what is already planned, and then perhaps they say in the Western perspective is already written in the stars, right? So, and he also touched on Industrial Revolution 4.0 as well, and he looked into the several agendas that go with it. In fact, the Ministry of those days, higher education, is trying to humanize the Industrial Revolution. So ways on how to humanize it, including now there is a trend among Japanese and Taiwanese to marry robots. This is a very strange phenomenon because definitely it goes against the philosophy of marriage itself. So if you want easy marriage, perhaps you can just marry robots. It makes things easier, but it's not a challenge to grow yourself. Yeah? And it's against sunnatullah as well. But again, we see these patterns happening, although I remember following Prof. just now in the morning saying about sunnatullah and about challenges that we face and challenges about intelligence without religion and really religious people without intelligence. So these are the challenges that we are facing in the world today. Now the next one, he did touch on schools as factories. Yeah, we do not appreciate geniuses, which happens in every way. But unfortunately, we say only the academics are genius people. And how we try to conform our people into set employability, and so that we turn schools into factories. And he said the best way to predict the future is to create it or hatch it. This is true, but to what extent universities has followed this? To what extent universities has created either factories or hatching them separately and valuing their intellects. So this is a challenge on universities. And he talks about balanced leadership from the Al-Ghazali perspective, of which justice is the balanced sum of several virtues. Well, some universities will go on Al-Ghazali or Al-Farabi, but I doubt some of the universities are looking into this. I doubt. I know some of them are looking into the Western perspective, and this is a good forum for discussions, especially coming for USAS conference to deal specifically on balanced personality, looking it from the Al-Ghazali's perspective. And last but not least, he mentioned about the heart, the cult, where it should be the moral compass for everybody. But then we say, we read a lot about this. In fact, Harvard came out with a book by Professor Harry Lewis talking about excellence without soul. So you're talking about soul. So where is the soul? Who is catching the soul? Are the professors have soul? So all these are questions that need to be answered immediately by universities, especially universities professors who are leading students or guiding them as murabbis. So those are the 3 important things. The rest, I think you can cook up some questions later on. We have about half an hour for question and answer session, which is absent in the first session just now, the royalty session, right? So next we move on to Professor Dr. Noha Adli. Dr. Adli is currently head of CIMAR, or CIMAR is short for Sarah Geldin, of which the founder is here, Professor Ismail. You feel so honored to see you in person, because all this while we've been reading all about you without seeing your face. Sarah Geldin Institute for Multidisciplinary Advanced Research. So it's not just research, advanced research at Bibliotheca Alexandrina Egypt. All right. So Dr. Adli is also a professor of computer and systems engineering, Faculty of Engineering, at Alexandria University. She obtained her PhD in computer science from Cambridge University in the UK in 1995. She has served in several positions since 1988, locally and abroad. Until February 2013, Dr. Adli served as head of ICT sector at the Bibliotheca Alexandriana, where she was responsible for the BA's overall ICT strategy and the design and implementation of its digital initiatives. Then she was appointed as first deputy to the Minister of Communications and Information Technology until March 2016. She is author and co-author of more than 50 publications in peer-reviewed journals and scientific conferences. The floor is yours, Prof. Adli, please.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Kamaruddin. Okay, well, I'm going to address the education path through technology, creating the future leaders. So I have three pillars. I have education, and I have technology, and I have leadership. And I would like to discuss how education and technology, they would help into creating future leaders, and also what the current leaders, they need to do in order to reach and make the future leaders. As a matter of fact, we all know that education and the societal impact of the education, it enables individuals to perform better in developing the nation economy. Actually, the economy and the welfare of any nation is depending on the nationals, and the education serves very much into that. And as we have seen with Aristotle and Plato, education is central to the moral fulfillment of individual and the well-being of the society in which they live. So they are the core. Education is the core of building our society. However, the education sector, it needs to respond to changes that they are happening within the society, and sectors that they are outside of the education sector, that they have lots of implications and influence very much the education. One of which is basically technology, and this is what I would like to talk about. Technology has been changing the world. We've seen on the ways of communication. It has changed a lot since 120 or 150 years ago. The way that we are, the entertainment, or the ways of listening to music or watching TVs or movies and so on, it has changed dramatically. Transportation has changed dramatically. However, education, which is like more than 100 years ago, there are still some models that they are in many schools today that they are using the same format of education. And this does not match our new society. I'm glad that Professor Abdelrazak has mentioned the fourth industrial revolution, which is basically, again, influencing our society a lot. We have seen the first revolution with the mechanization, steam and water power, followed by the second revolution with the mass production, automobile and cars production, assembly lines, electricity, and so on. Then came the third revolution with the computer and automation, electronics, chips, networks. However, this was followed by the fourth revolution, which is building on the third revolution. And here we're talking about integration of systems, about artificial intelligence, cyber physics. And actually, we see that although each revolution, the first one, which is, it was from 1700 until 850 or 40 with the steam engineering, and then the assembly line, and then the computer, internet, and nuclear energy. But then with the fourth industrial revolution, there are lots and lots of systems which are basically were existing. Some of them, they were existing before. But the difference with the fourth revolution, industrial revolution, is that there is a fusion of these technologies. These systems are merging together, and they are producing new phenomena or new, new platform, a new horizon, that it is producing new products, new services that we have not been, accustomed to. So we have, mobile devices, Internet of Things, location detection, human interaction, HCI, 3D printing, smart sensors, which is part of the Internet of Things, big data analytics, which is currently with a huge amount of data. It's developing or getting insight out of this data. This is through the big data analytics and through machine learning and so on. And actually, if we even ask ourselves, artificial intelligence, well, artificial intelligence existed already in the third revolution. So what is making it so special in the fourth revolution? But because of the advancement in technology and with the large amount of data combined, or generated by the development of things like the smart centers, the Internet of Things platforms, the amount of data generated is huge. But also the processing power that is currently we have achieved is enormous. So these two factors, along with the theoretical or the theory of the artificial intelligence, it has brought it into a totally different dimension. So the fourth industrial revolution, it does have lots of dimensions. So this was the technology that I was talking about, but also it is bringing some other dimensions, like, for instance, ethics and identity. The fusing technologies, as I mentioned, that these technologies, they are all like merging together. There is security and conflict, privacy, which is a big issue, innovation and productivity, disruption of jobs and the labor market. All these aspects that we are going to address in the few slides to come, to discuss how is this impacting the education and impacting the youth. Well, education needs to meet with the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution will transform, it has already transformed the way that we live, the way we work, and it is yet to be introducing new ways also and more novelty. So actually, the World Economic Forum estimates that 65% of the children who are in primary school today, when they will be in their jobs, they will be in occupations which doesn't exist today. So there will be a totally new world. Some jobs will disappear. This is due to the automation, the introduction of robotics, and so on. Then we will have lots of the monotonic and routine jobs that will be taken over by machines. But actually, some new jobs will be created. As a matter of fact, the WEF estimates that by 2020, there will be 1.5 million new digitized jobs across the globe. However, for that, we need a new workforce. We need new skills. And the education, it needs to align its skill set so that it would power the new digital economy. This revolution is driven by data. As I mentioned, there are lots of technologies that already existed before. But the dimension of the data, which has been in explosion, it has, along with the 3D printing, the autonomous robotics, the cybersecurity, data analytics, and the system integration. Integration and fusion of technology is a key word. Because here, this is interdisciplinary. Actually, I would like to add that also the fourth revolution, it's not only, technology, adding to that genetics, adding nanotechnology, new material, energy. It's a combination of different discipline that they are interacting together, and we need to see the fusion of these technologies together. So actually, Jim Gray has predicted that there will be a new science paradigm. Thousands of years ago, we had experimental science with the description of the natural phenomena. Last few hundred years, we had the theoretical science with Newton's law, Maxwell's equations, and so on. The last few decades, we had the computational science, which is the simulation and complex phenomena. But today, we have the e-science, or the data-centric science. which is unifying the theory, the experiment, and simulation into one platform, and using the data exploration and data mining in order to analyze the data, to generate data generated by instrument, Internet of Things, sensors, simulations, sensor networks, social media. You know, I mean, the data is really huge. And actually, and this add on to the scientists to analyze the data which is generated, and also there are lots of commercial and academic applications that they are building on top of that. So it's basically, this industry is taking layers from the infrastructure up to the application and the whether commercial or academic. So basically this is presenting us with some challenges and some opportunities. With the advantages of having new products and new services that we didn't have before. Currently, we have, like, I mean, ordering a cab with Uber and Karim. It's, like, I mean, with the click of a button, and he's at our door. We can make payment and make financial transactions and e-banking, you know, I mean, through computer while we are staying at home, down to watching films, playing a game. All this has been transformed, and we are now enjoying doing this, you know, I mean, with the technology online, remotely, where we are on the go. And also the Industrial Revolution, the fourth Industrial Revolution, has developed, I mean, has attained gains in efficiency and productivity. However, the revolution could yield greater inequality. It can have some also downside. And the inequality, it could be generated from the potential disruption in labor markets, because actually the labor market is going to be very different. Its demand is going to be totally different skills. Some of the skills will not be needed anymore, and so basically lots of people are talking about unemployment, which is going to be, I mean, percentage of high unemployment because of the skills that they are not needed anymore. However, there is new jobs that will be created, and consequently there are new skills that needs to be taught or need to be acquired by the youth in order to be able to contribute to the economy. So the future skills we're representing the critical factor for production, and the skills, it's much more important than the capital. When we talk about the skills, we have heard about the 4 C's of the 21st century. Creativity and innovation, critical thinking and problem solving, communication and collaboration, and as we can see that they are all interleaved together. So the 4 of them, they are constituting, again, a puzzle that they need to be completed in order to have the full picture. The critical thinking with information discovery, with interpretation analysis, with reasoning, with problem solving and system thinking. These are skills that, like, I mean, as Professor Abdelrazak was saying, is that it has not been the base of our schools, universities, and education. It's the factory, you know, like, I mean, that we were thinking like they're all, you know, I mean, it's in the assembly line. Critical thinking is a totally different dimension or different skill that needs to be embedded into the learning process. The collaboration is extremely important to build leadership, to allow people to be learn how to work on teamwork, onto flexibility, how to accommodate negotiations, and so on. Communication with effective listening, communicating using the digital media, which is currently, you know, like, I mean, the norm, engaging in conversation, discussions, negotiations, and the 4th C, which is creativity. And this is what distinguishes humans from machines. Machines can replace humans in doing lots of things, but machines cannot be creative. It's human, you have to be creative, or they can be creative. So we really need to embed in the injection of the education all the aspects that would help into getting the youth having their ideas developed and implemented, encouraging them into creation of new ideas and to getting them designed, tested, and implemented. So actually, talking on skills, the World Economic Forum has developed the top 10 skills which will be required by 2020. And these are going around the terms which I have been talking about, which is complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, cognitive flexibility. Now, if we compare this set of skills, they were also thought of in 2015. So we see that there is some of them that they disappeared, some of the skills that, for instance, critical thinking and creativity, who jumped from 4 and 10 to a skill to be number 2 and 3. So these are, very important skills that they are needed for 2020. We've seen emotional intelligence and cognitive flexibility that to be new skills that they have been introduced, and we have seen, some others that they have disappeared. So our education, looking at these skills that we need to enrich our education system with it, and looking at the challenges that we have in our education system, we're having large population, and specifically, in developing countries, in countries like Egypt, where we have a large population, whether students, undergraduates, graduates, and employees. We have limited resources, whether financial, human, and venues, in schools, buildings for schools. Teaching approaches are very obsolete. The lack of the mandatory skills for the 21st century, which we were just talking about. We have limited access to the unreachable and marginalized areas. I'm going to show you just in a few seconds some of the statistics on the penetration of the internet in the rural areas against the urban area. And we need really to have access to the unreachable and the marginalized areas. There is a gap between the school and home. Parents, they have to be one of the stakeholders which are part of the whole ecosystem of the education, and this is specifically for school. And there is a gap between the education and labor market demand which needs to be bridged. And finally, community awareness, which needs to be there. So if we look at the holistic approach in order to come up with an education system, which is this one is mostly centered around schools, but the most important thing is that ICT alone is not sufficient, and the key here is to have a student-centered approach. The student is in the center, and everything else is on the peripheral. And we need to develop a whole ecosystem with the principals of the schools, with the teachers, with literacy, with the analytics and feedback system, in order to see what the students they have assimilated, really assimilated out of the material of the education. And so it's a whole ecosystem that needs to be put in place. When we talk about education transformation, we need to focus on the student potential, on the student outcomes, on the 21st century workforce, and onto the global, as a global citizen. So what is education transformation? Student success is in the middle, is in the heart, and around it we need to have the professional development for the teachers, the curriculum and assessment. ICT needs to be embedded, but it's as enabler, as a facilitator. It's not really an objective. ICT is never an objective, it's a tool. Sustainable resources is research and evaluation, which is very important onto how to have formative and informative assessment of the student, what they have really learned. It's not, just putting lots of material in there so that they know it by heart, but what they have really assimilated. And so the emerging trends of the education being a student-centric approach with virtual learning, whether it is blended learning or flipped learning, the openness is very important. Openness in schools, in resources, in teaching, in access. The electronic assessment, which is essential for formative and informative assessment. And personalization, We need to get it to have it adaptive learning and bring your own devices. Currently, it's very common to have people with their own devices and having to work with this device, whether it's school or at home, as well as adopting the social and ubiquitous learning. We have other challenges which are present in higher education, which is we don't have enough digital resources, the lack of native languages, high-quality digital content. We are facing that in Arabic. There isn't enough high-quality Arabic material which is available online that could be useful as education material. There isn't much management information system in universities. We don't have much of good quality e-services in higher education. In Egypt, we have high density. We have 2 million undergraduate students, and we have an imbalanced ratio between the staff and the students. And this needs to be rectified. ICT in higher education, it can be manifested with building the ICT infrastructure, but most important, the capacity building. So it's capacity building, capacity building, capacity building. And then on the application, having the, as I mentioned, the being a tool or enabler or the platform, like for instance, the LMS, the MOOCs, the digital libraries, portal, and social media. MOOCs, we have seen how the MOOCs, or the massive online open courses, it has taken over. Everybody is taking courses online, and it is, it has changed the way that we are taking examination. We can take accreditation for the course or not, just just to learn what we want to know without having a degree. It has changed a lot of our thinking, and we have seen it adopted by MIT, Stanford, and by the very big schools. So we have technology at the core, and we cannot deny that, because actually if we look at the statistics of the digital around the world, and this is from January 2018, we see with the total population of 7.6 billion, the urbanization is 55%, internet users is 53%, the active social media users, they are 42%, mobile users is 68%, so the penetration is really high, and the active mobile users are with 39%. Now, this tells how much the internet and the digital has penetrated into the different, worldwide, and this needs to be thought of as a media in order to disseminate the material, the education, the communication, the negotiation, and all the skills that we have been talking about in the 21st century. We have experienced a growth ranging on 7% on the internet users, 13% on the active social media users. And this is, I think, it's a very important number to think of. The annual growth of 13% on the social media tells you that social media is becoming really, a place where people to meet. So rather than thinking of the very static classroom, we need to think, how would we get these skills that it's practiced through, or some of them, through the social media. The internet penetration by region worldwide, and we can see that it is, it's growing, and actually it's in this part of the world, it has a good percentage. Mobile connectivity is very high, and it's even higher than the population. It's over 100% in many areas. The social media penetration is quite high. The average is 42%. The annual growth of the media user is sorry. Yeah. The average is 13%, and you can see the social media penetration by region. Now, the pervasiveness of the digital technology and social media, it can lead to positive phenomena, like for instance, the interaction providing opportunity for cross-cultural understanding, but also it can present some challenges of propagation of unrealistic expectations, as well as spread of extreme ideas and ideologies. And these numbers, actually, it shows you what is happening in 60 seconds on the internet, on the different media, whether Facebook, Netflix, YouTube, and so on. And if you see the number, you will see that the number are jumping from 2016 to 2017. So we are going to experience in 2018 even more. So this tells us that technology is there, penetration of the internet is there, let's use it. So what are the current trends? We have mentioned some of those terms before. The HCI, Internet of Things, robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, augmented reality, 3D printing. Now, the new here is that there is new academic models. They could be based on interdisciplinary research, which would be necessary into creating effective teaching and learning platform using fusions of these technologies. There are also some trends in the society, such as, for instance, shifting the role of the educator, having students as creators, the way that we achieve the learning through edutainment and gamification, shifting towards lifelong learning. So the learning paradigm is shifting from being an instructor-centric approach to student-centric approach where the teacher is a facilitator. And we have the communication and learning, the internet, the experts, all those are in the peripheral, but having the student in the, at the core. The pyramid of learning, it has shown that the assimilation or the retention rate is 5% by lectures and 30% by demonstration, but it reaches 50% by discussion groups and 90% through teaching others. So the participatory teaching methods, it's overtaking the passive teaching methods, and these are the methods that we need to be adopting. The paradigm shift in teacher, we need to be motivating the teacher, bringing the professional training for the teacher to allow it to be a leader, a facilitator, a content creator, and animator, or even helping the students in order to develop their ideas and get them implemented, and guiding them and tutoring them, mentoring, rather than being, like, spoon-fed teaching. This learning shift, with the lifetime employability, and to achieve the global economic change, we need to move from the individual with skills for life and work today to innovative teaching practice, to school leadership and education system change. So collaborative learning, it is essential. There could be lots of scenarios using this fusion of technology. I wouldn't go through this laborious example, but it just tells us that through lots of technologies we can really achieve some of these 21st skill, and we can create this dynamic platform for education and teaching learning platform. There are some political and legal trends, like that the government and the regulation need to address, like academic collaboration between countries, and this needs to be the cross boundaries, this needs to be achieved, exploitation of young individual potential. There is the issue of data protection and privacy concern. When it comes to technology, to data, of course, there is the issue of privacy, data privacy, security, and we have heard of, of many cases, like with the Facebook, the recent Facebook data with the data breaches. And we'd say, well, will be data breaches in the education sector. These are some statistics on data breaches which are happening in healthcare, in the industry, healthcare, government, financial, and it is happening in the education with a percentage of 11%. And these are the type of breaches that would be happening, whether, the source of them, whether it is malicious or accidental, or whether it is malicious insider, and by type of theft or account access or financial access and so on. But this should not be intimidating the government or the regulator of saying, oops, there is this privacy, so let's sit back and we sit back out from technology. No, technology should not be used as a policeman of saying, let's not do that, deprive the access from here, deprive the access from there. We need to regulate, to have regulations to adjust how the data, for instance, is accessed and utilized, but without having the inhibition of access of the data. So the government, they have challenges into having the pressure to change their approaches to be transparent, to have public engagement, and to, I have 1 minute, I can see.
Yes, I give you 2 minutes.
2 minutes to go, okay, I'm about to finish. It needs to embrace agile governance by having flexibility and having regulators to cope up with the pace of technology. If regulators, they would go through the lawyers, we will not get anywhere. So they need to go with the pace of technology. So as a summary, organization today, there is a technology race. We have lots of technology like IoT, robotics, AI, and so on, that it is getting more autonomous. Executives and government, they have very little option but to adopt this technology in education in order to create our future leaders. For new technologies to augment the leadership, they need to adapt 2 principles: the human centricity, by having the human in the center of the approach, using technology to boost the human qualities, but thinking of technology as enabler and a facilitator rather than an objective. And the principle of the full circle, by having people to be effectively working together. Technologies, they are promoting understanding and alignment, and technology should not be taken as a policeman. Leadership must resist the temptation to use technology to control unnecessary compliance, but it should be using as a coach. So change will not wait for us. Leaders, educators, and governments all need to be proactive in upskilling and retraining people so everyone can benefit from the 4th industrial revolution. It's education through technology that will be creating our future leaders, and we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Adli. I apologize for stopping you halfway. I know there are many things to share, but perhaps we can discuss further in the Q&A. Basically, Prof. Adli has touched on, I would say, 7 important matters. Number 1, on the role and relationship between education, technology, and leadership, of which she has explained very well about the relationship. And she spoke on Aristotle and Plato's approach to education as the central being in moving forward. And education is the most effective mechanism. She stresses on that. And then she also spoke on education and the 4th IR revolution, the industrial revolution, also a very pertinent and important topic, as also raised by Tan Sri. And then jobs which will not be in existence anymore. So universities will really have to look into offering of disciplines now in universities. So I think down the road, some jobs will be not in existence anymore. And she stresses on jobs with stresses on critical thinking. The 4 C's, she mentioned the 4 C's, of which I've taken note of that and make sure that we'll send message to all the vice chancellors to go and stress on critical thinking, on communication, on collaboration, and on creativity. So these are the 4 C's that is the things in a 21st century employment. Or perhaps our graduates now, perhaps they do not wish to follow the orthodox, I would say orthodox way of choosing jobs. In fact, when we have graduate employability, there are students or graduates who prefer to take 1 or 2 years off, perhaps traveling the world or doing some things that we never thought of. Yeah? And then she spoke about the emergence of the new science paradigm. Then I realized in front of me are all 3 scientists, with exception of mine, social science. And we've heard from that paradigm. Perhaps we can also have some comments from the floor, those who doesn't come from science background. Yeah. And she spoke about as well education transformation including challenges and opportunities. So basically, those are the things that she had touched. So the next speaker, which I hope will finish at 5, not 5, but because we will try to have a half an hour session of question and answers. I'm lucky that I sat next to him during lunch, because when I was reading his background, it was like reading Greek. I said, can you help me, because I have to introduce you. Now, what is this? Now, he is Professor Dr. Haris Ahmad. He said he's 64. I looked at him and I said, this is like Einstein in the making with his hair, you know, that will develop into Einstein. He is a distinguished professor, Department of Physics at the University of Malaya, and he had been appointed as distinguished professor in 2014. And he began his academic career at the University of Malaya in 1983 as a lecturer, and is currently a professor of photonics. So I was asking him, what is photonics? Huh? So that's Greek to me. But he explained it very nicely that this is something to do with light. So immediately I was thinking, in the Quran it says light upon light. And that's all I know about photonics. And then Dr. Haris' areas of expertise are fiber optics and waveguides. Again, that is Greek to me. It is a planar light wave circuit. All right? Quantum electronics and lasers. Okay, that I know, laser technology, and fiber optics and waveguides. All of which are recognized by the International Citation Index. He is delighted to have been selected as a joint recipient of the 2010 Merdeka Award in the Outstanding Scholastic Achievement category in recognition to his expansive contribution, of which he has received many awards from Malaysian and international organizations, such as Fellow of Academy Science Malaysia in 2006, Malaysia Torre Science Foundation Award in 2007, Merdeka Award for Scholastic Achievement in 2010, Islamic Development Bank Prize for Science and Technology, Photonics Research Center in 2014, ASEAN Outstanding Scientist and Technology Award in 2014, and Distinguished Professor Award from Ministry of Education in 2014, and could go on and on and on. But because of time constraint, we are giving you at least until 4:15. Prof, give a hand of applause to Prof. Haris. Thank you very much. Please, the floor is yours, Prof.
Firstly, thank you very much, Madam, as I'm very grateful for the kind words being given to me by our Professor Datuk Sri Dr. Zaliha Kamarudin, Rector, is equivalent to Vice Chancellor or President of International Islamic University in Malaysia, a very well-known university in this country. And also I have very high regards for Tan Sri Dr. Datuk Zulkifli. He was formerly a Vice Chancellor also, and I not. He's the Vice Chancellor of University Science Malaysia, a very known figure, especially a very good writer. He wrote frequently in the press, and a very highly regarded intellectual. Now, my thought there might be some overlapping by the earlier speaker, Professor Dr. Nohan Adli. I'll just run through quickly because of shortage of time. What I'm going to talk about is innovation. I'm going to talk about entrepreneurship. The most important thing about our life, especially the young mind here, we always hope that somebody come to the country and set up a factory. We always hope somebody will do something for us, create up industry and let us look for a job. That's all we think. We are just a servant. We just want to get a job from somebody else's effort. Now, I think the mindset has to be changed. I think as been given by the first morning, by the first speaker this morning, a very interesting part, and we have to fall back into our history of time. Islamic civilization of science has been established for a long time. We give birth to many theories, many advancement of science. We generate knowledge, many knowledge in those many years, like Ibn Hatam. He is the father of photonics actually. Ibn Hatam discovered optics. And after that you find people like Newton and so on that study optics based on Ibn Hatam. And you have Avicenna, you have so many great Islamic scientists. The only problem that we have in that many years, we generate knowledge, we study well, but we are not able to bring knowledge into commercialization. We cannot bring things into economic wealth. And then we go into dark ages when the Europeans were in dark ages, and they come and take over whatever that we have, and they create industry. They create industry. And we miss that opportunity. We're not going to miss again this time. I think we should create industry and be more enterprising. We're not going to miss this time. So knowledge is very important, especially the young mind here. And for us, being in this part of the world, unfortunately, is a very competitive area. Southeast Asia is very competitive because we have Korea on top of us, we have the Japanese, and we have a very big giant China that came out last 20 years aggressively. And they have created new product, new industry. Eventually, they even upset the Americans. And now, last couple of weeks, we have trade war. And the trade war started with China. Eventually, it goes to Canada. Eventually, it goes to Europe. And these are what being claimed by Trump, enemies of the US. He's going to make US great again. So for us in this part of the world, we have to create our own industry. We can't depend on other people. So what I'm going to do now, I'm not going to talk on technical things. I think we have just now Professor Dr. Nohan has spoken well, especially Industry 4.0. I'm trying to learn what is Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0. I'm trying to understand smart industry. I think things are going to be different for the next couple of years, especially in the 21st century. What I'm going to discuss with the young mind now, qualities of people. How we're going to generate leaders of the future. This is what I'm going to discuss for these 10 minutes. Although I should be given half an hour, but as given, I have to respect the moderator. I will try to speed up in 15 minutes the important qualities that we need to have. Knowledge will come. I think there is no issue, there's no problem to acquire knowledge, but we need to build up qualities. Qualities are very important, how we move forward in time. So, as you know, Malaysia and innovation. Malaysia is we are very lucky, especially Muslim country. We are very lucky. God has blessed us. Allah has blessed us very well. And most Muslim country has oil. We were very comfortable the last 30, 40 years. But things are getting a bit difficult now. We have to have technology actually. We have to be very competitive. We have to understand science, and we have to build technology. So Malaysia is blessed also. We have a lot of natural resources in those days. And then we are the key players in global industrial sector that generate a component and products. As you know, Penang, we have what we call the Silicon Valley of the East. We have so many American companies based here. And then we cannot rely anymore on these foreign companies. We have to build up our own industry. All right? And if you look at the track record of Malaysia, may not be as great, but we are moving with time. We are one of those early people who developed flash drive, automatic egg boiler. Of course, we boil egg in the morning. Every morning that we have eggs, I think is a very, very good innovation. Simple idea, but very good innovation. How we boil egg in a very clever way. And rubber stand clone, and Nehemiah wall, Lightroom camera, and flipper toothbrush holder. I think this was done by simple people with a simple mind that can create new industry. And if you look carefully, the opportunity for Malaysia globally, if you look here, we have so many new global, these are new global industry. These are not conventional industry, but very new industry that came up the last 10 years. You have like, these are being mainly driven by the Stanford University, Kinetic, Google's, Prime Loop, and so on. These are new industry that help to drive United States of America economy. You see, US is different from the European. US are being run by entrepreneurship. Entrepreneur. US is where you have people very creative, very innovative, create new industry that eventually generate jobs. All right? And you find that for us to survive in this part of the world, we have to be similar, entrepreneur, and very innovative, and to create jobs for the future, for the younger people and so on. So we have to follow the same model as the US to be able to create new jobs. And now let us understand the best practices of leading edge companies. What are the main qualities? Impact of the economy and strength on our major issue. Companies are looking for ways to accelerate high potential. A company needs leader and to be able to think in the most critical manner, and also to inspire. Leader as teacher model is key. These are very important quality that entrepreneurs should have if you want to build up new industry. And if you look, you should be able to link your idea to new strategy and also align your idea, and should be top management driven and includes coaching, and you should be leaders, feedback, and also development plan includes action learning, leaders as teacher, and to be able to have a mentoring program, and also a combination of all these things. These are the qualities that we need to build up on future leaders. These are the requirements for future leaders. Because 21st century is a very challenging period. Because you need to create new industry, you need to have good qualities, and you can build up new industry. And these are the main important points that we require for future leaders. And you find that one, on a basic level, as a leader, you exist to inspire others to strive for excellence. You must constantly strive for excellence and inspire others also to strive for excellence. To ensure the work environment is safe and challenging and fair, teach, mentor, and provide guidance. These are the qualities for young people to build up for the future. Because you are very young, you are about 25, you can spend about the next 20 years to build up this type of qualities that can help to drive the younger people in the future. All right? True leaders put the welfare of the group ahead of their own self-interest. Selfless does not mean hands-off. Great leaders enhance institutional capability by driving the action of others to achieve greatness. So our job is to make other people to achieve greatness. Because if I can inspire 10 people, if I want to inspire myself alone, I can only achieve one goal. If I can inspire 10 young great minds here, if I can influence and inspire 10 great minds here, I can have the opportunity of creating 10 new industry, 10 new products, 10 new business opportunity. So people like us should be able to inspire young men, young mind to multiply the opportunity actually. And the essence of the most important part, the perceived complexity of the leadership arises from seemingly overwhelming numbers of duty. Create and establish a strategy, ensure effectiveness and efficiency, communicate openly and often, build solid connection, act with integrity and fairness, provide counsel and direction, exert influence in the absence of ownership, foster collaboration, motivate, coach, and develop others, produce results, and meet objectives and exceed goals. And this has been touched briefly by Professor Dr. Nohan Adli. I'll just run through briefly. How can a leader avoid being overwhelmed by this complexity? You find that you should be able to focus on few key qualities and incorporating them into every action, simplify the act of leading others, and increases leadership effectiveness. There is no standardized approach to effective leadership. Your effectiveness as a leader is directly proportional to how well the key qualities you focus on align with your values and your personality. 5 qualities that is very important. 5 qualities that is very important for great leaders are: maintain and demonstrate strong conviction. Passion, you must have passion. You must have a very strong conviction, all right? Develop and communicate in a clear and winning vision. You must have vision. And create a high-performance culture, convinces rather than control. You must convince people, you don't direct them all the time, because great leader will always influence and convince people. I think that is where you have good qualities. You'll be able to convince people. And then continually learn. You must constantly learn from changing environment. Strength and competency are deficiency of next generation leader, because 21st century require different type of leaders of very high quality. This is how an organization looks like. I think we should not be bothered because shortage of time. I will skip this slide, how you move up from at a manager level. Eventually you can become CEO by looking at the structure. Strength of the next generation leader that you must have, ability to prioritize a multitude of important demands on their time, and also ability to deliver result-oriented, a high integrity mindset. You must have a high integrity mindset, understanding of the technical side of the business and the product and also the services. If you look at the figure down, I give you some idea. If you are an individual contributor, you will have this ability of critical thinking, openness. And then if you have good judgment and understand business, you can become manager of others. If you are able to create new and different ideas, you can become manager of function, and then you have manager of business should be able to plan further in the system. All right. And the top 5 competency lacking in potential leaders of the future that we need to have to be able to think, in the most critical manner, leading change, and also ability to create vision and engage others, as what being pointed out by Professor Dr. Noha. At least it's called cooperation and also collaboration. Understand the operation and how they all fit together. Turning today's student into tomorrow leaders. This is a very important thing. The young mind are all here. The important people here are the young people. To me, the young people are going to change the world actually. People like us is just waiting time to move on in our life. Key skill of tomorrow leaders. Turning today's student into tomorrow leader require the development of 5 key skill area. Communication skill, I think we have heard of this many times. I think we have to build up this communication skill in our student, able to communicate, or able to think, and able to communicate with what they think, and so on. How we put our idea across, and this include cooperation, problem solving, and listening skill. In addition, students learn how to deal with conflict or crisis. Social awareness skill. Students learn how to consider other people's opinion and show empathy. And emotional management skills. The students learn how to manage stress and motivate themselves to work towards a particular goal. Self-awareness skill. Throughout the process of collaborating, students learn how to identify and express their own feeling, and also should be able to make a decision. When students work in group, they have to make reasonable choices that everyone agree with. This develop the quality of leaders. And you find that social emotional skill of tomorrow leaders, you must have self-awareness, accountability. That's very important, especially when you move forward in the future. You should be accountable whatever that you do. When something goes wrong, a true leader doesn't blame others. They make a commitment to admit their mistake and face the consequences. Teamwork and collaboration activities teach your students how to feel responsibility for the input they have on the overall result. Self-motivation, this is an emotional skill that pushes successful leaders towards their goal. And also their activity in the classroom will be the first step towards developing a strong ability for self-motivation. And the next important thing is collaboration, as been pointed out by the early speaker. It's very important to work into team. It's very important to work closely with your friend, with your partners, to form a teamwork. So collaboration is very important. This is the main thing of the day. We should always work together. Need to showcase masterful collaboration skill. They know when to praise others and how to resolve conflict or situation within a team through proper communication. Your classroom can be the place where they develop the foundation of this skill. Turning today's students into tomorrow leaders. To turn today's student into tomorrow leaders, students must be able to do this various thing. Adoption is to be able to incorporate practices developed in other organizations. Should have that ability to adopt and adapt. You must be able to adapt to changes. You find that if you refuse to adapt to changes, you find that it will be a difficult time for you to move up in the whole system. So you have to adapt. New approaches or practices that are created by the organization, application of new technology, and you should be able to diffuse the spread of new ideas and practices through the local government sector. These are very important things. So if you look, what the key requirement for students of the future, how do we achieve to become leaders in the 21st century, is innovation. Innovation is given to you in this slide. It's very simple idea, innovation process. You should be able to identify the problem, and then you brainstorm, have a good plan, and realize the idea and turn them into result. And these are 5 important points for young mind. Young mind, you should always look into innovation. How do I make changes? If I see something, if I see how people do things, how can I do the things differently? And that is innovation. And you must be very creative. So these are very important assets for students of today to become leaders of tomorrow. Turning today's student into tomorrow leaders is you must be inquisitive. You must be inquisitive. You must always say how this thing works. Like this morning lecture, what if, why? These are all important questions that you need to address. All right? And you should be knowledgeable and should be thinkers. Thinker like Tan Sri Zulkifli. He's a thinker. You should constantly think. I think young mind must always think. How things work and so on. So thinking is very important to develop the skill set that may require you in the future to become leader of any organization. All right? And then you must be good communicator. Of course, you find that you need English. Sometimes you can still communicate with your own language. There is no issue. But able to communicate well in either language. All right? And then you must be principle. You must have a principle. All right? You cannot compromise on things. You must be respectful. You must be able to be honest and accountable. And then open-minded. You must also listen to people and see what people have said, what are their ideas, and you try to grasp what are these people trying to do and how they look at things, so that you can also make changes by looking at people's idea. So it must be open-minded and caring. If you have a staff, you have a younger employer, you should always care for your staff. It's very important to have this caring feeling. A good leaders will always be a caring person. And I'm telling you, if you can care and you can show the caring feeling to your employee, and you'll be surprised how the employee will be very loyal to the organization. So caring a very important contribution for the success of an organization. Risk taker, you must be a risk taker. You want to become a rich person, you cannot be cannot play safe, you must take the risk. Risk, some element of risk is always there in your life. And you must have a balanced life and also reflective. And the next important thing that you should have as a student of today, you should be able to do problem solving and should be very creative and also analytical in thinking. And this skill set you normally get if you do science. If you do science, STEM, you find that if you do mathematics or you do physics, chemistry, you find that this subject matter teach you all the skill set that you have at this slide. Problem solving, creativity, and also analytical. And these are very important ingredients for future leaders. If you want to become future leaders, you must build up this important skill set. 3 important skill sets that will bring you into a very important platform in the future. And also collaboration, communication, as I highlighted just now, ethics, action, and accountability. These are very important points for you to acquire to become leaders of tomorrow. And I give you roughly a successful young Malaysian entrepreneur, Hanif Mazuki Muhammad Sopi. He's very young, 21 years old, just like any of you in this room now. And he is an entrepreneur. He built up a very successful business. And then you have people like Sherry Tan, the same thing, purchasing clothing online. And I can tell you a lot of students now are involved directly or indirectly online business. And we have Goh Ching Huang, that come up with co-founder of The Lorry, which is a startup and allow one to book a lorry to transport their heavy goods. That's what we have now, Uber and so on, a spin-off of that idea. And then you find successful global entrepreneurs. And for instance, you have the great man, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs revitalized Apple. Apple is a very great company in the early days before they kick him out. And then they have to bring him back. And then when he come back, he give birth to iPad, iPhone, and so on. He's a great inventor. All right? You find that he's the biggest American company today. One of the most important advice for a young mind today, say no to focus group and market research. Always believe in yourself. Okay, the next, Steve Jobs has been a generation of, he is a very successful entrepreneur. As I did mention, American give birth to many entrepreneurs. I think some of you are very engrossed with Facebook. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, when he started to build up Facebook, he was only 21 years old. He dropped out from Harvard School. Same thing with Bill Jobs. They quit school halfway. And they are the great inventor. Steve Jobs, you have what you find that, you find Bill Gates, Microsoft, quit school, Harvard. And Mark Zuckerberg also the same group of people who quit Harvard and give birth to Facebook. Everybody is using, and one of the biggest companies. These are being built up by young minds like you, what we have today. And you have the opportunity to be the next Mark Zuckerberg and so on. The next important thing that I want to show you, Bill Gates, I think I have briefly discussed just now. Okay. And then we have Jack Bezos. Amazon is the richest company now. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they overtook Apple. It's just online business. And they can even kill Walmart. Walmart is one of the biggest retailers in US because of Amazon, with new approach of business, and he has good quality as the future leaders. He's able to change business. So he built up business that become one of the biggest companies in the world now. And then you have people like Larry Page, and these are young people. Just to share with the young mind here, when they built up Google's, they were a PhD student at Stanford University. Stanford University. They were doing PhD. And they would in the lab, get together, have a cup of coffee, toying the idea, why not we make a search engine? And from a student doing PhD, they give birth to search engine. And these are the biggest search engine in this world, Google, from 2 chaps, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. All right? Spend no expense on innovation. Their advice to you. You should be able, one of the most important things, what we learned today from this slide, spend no expense on innovation. Innovation, you should always build up your innovation, spend money on innovation. Should not be stingy on innovation. Thank you very much, and I stop now.
Thank you, Prof. Haris. I'm glad we have that advice, that you have 2 minutes left. Thank you. I didn't realize that. Yes. Yeah, that's for Tony, is it? Summary of what he has presented is basically enculturing innovation for the young people here especially on the left side of the hall. And I would like to congratulate the organizers actually, because in most conferences, you have only full house in the morning. And in the afternoon, you see one by one leaving the hall. But this time, we still see full house in the afternoon. Why not we give a round of applause to the organizers? Thank you. Now, he did mention about enculturing innovation, and he spoke about quality. Although I whispered quietly to Tan Sri that, you know, nowadays people go for sympathy rather than quality. Yeah? And then he is a positivist. In fact, he spoke about opportunities for Malaysia globally. I'm glad, because there are many people who spoke about Malaysia going down the drain, this and that. But yes, there are many opportunities out there. And he spoke as well about best practices on good leadership, corporate governance, essence of leadership is giving service to others rather than self-serving. Because nowadays, I guess because of the postmodernism period, people are more individualistic, more materialistic. We see these trends in young people. I guess it is still not, we cannot shake this responsibility that we have to bring back them onto the straight path. Now, he spoke as well on strength of the next generation as leaders, where how to turn today's students to tomorrow leaders. And he spoke as well on communication skills, social awareness skills, emotional management skills, self-awareness skills, and decision-making skills. And he also spoke on innovation processes. I would like to say thank you again to Prof. Haris for finishing it on time, giving the audience about 15 minutes to ask perhaps 3 questions and to be answered. Please introduce yourself and to whom the questions are directed to, please. The mic is over there, please. Yeah, help yourself to the mic.
Assalamu alaikum.
Can I see hands on those who wants to ask? Or those wants to be
belakang ada seorang.
2, next.
Ni seorang lagi.
3, yes.
3
I have to stop at that. Later we will have another session later on the following day. Okay, 3 questions from the floor, please.
Ya. Saya Abdul Halim bin Bistamam.
Please introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah. To be a great leader, you must want that position. To be a great leader, you must want that position.
Oh.
And you must have a dream. And you must have a big dream. So right now, I'm the chief scientist of the world. InsyaAllah. I try to put forward. Baik, sekarang ni soalan saya nak cakap bahasa Melayu lah.
Now I have to
lebih
translate.
mesra. Baik, soalan saya begini. Soalan ini saya tujukan kepada pertama Dr. Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli dan kedua kepada Profesor Haris. Dan soalannya mengenai sains, fizik. Baik. Soalan saya yang pertama, kita ada 2 perkara yang kita nak bincang. Pertama, reveal knowledge and acquired knowledge. Reveal and acquired knowledge. Dan kedua-duanya daripada Allah. Jadi soalan saya nak tahu di manakah the meeting point between reveal and acquired knowledge. Saya ambil contoh yang jelas lah. Di dalam Al-Quran Allah sebut. Dan kalau kita tengok nama kita di sini ya, masing-masing tengoklah. Sebab kita nak buat eksperimen ya. Di sini kita tengok ada gambar daun ya. Dalam Quran Allah sebut, tidak selai daun pun jatuh tanpa pengetahuannya. Kemudian dalam New Straits Times pernah keluar satu berita, factors for tree shedding leaf. Jadi factors for tree shedding leaf itu kita anggap sebagai acquired knowledge. Yang reveal knowledge ni ialah dalam Quran, A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim, wa ma tasqutu min waraqatin illa ya'lamuha. Tidak selai daun pun jatuh tanpa pengetahuannya. Itu ilmu Allah. Sedangkan acquired knowledge itu ialah pemerhatian dan observation kita. Jadi sejauh mana ilmu ni dapat digabungkan antara art and science tadi? Artistic brain and scientific brain, di manakah meeting point dia?
Okey.
Nampak ya?
Okey.
Soalan itu ya?
Satu soalan saja sebab soalan dia, where is the meeting point
Yes.
between revealed knowledge and acquired knowledge? Thank you very much, Tuan.
Satu lagi, sikit je lagi.
No, only one question
Tak,
each.
saya bagi tahu
Please
untuk
give
Haris,
some
Profesor Haris satu lagi.
to others, please, kan? Out
Ada
of
dua soalan
respect to
yang,
others as
yang
well.
sangat penting saya nak bagi tahu kejap. Soalan kedua, laser tadi, laser yang disebut oleh photonic ya. Adakah Profesor Haris dapat membuat satu kesimpulan bahawa di dalam sejarah Nabi Sulaiman alaihissalam, peristiwa berlakunya perubahan istana Puteri Balqis dalam sekelip mata. Kita ada mendengar perkataan rapid eye movement, ya tak? Jadi boleh tak Profesor jelaskan antara ilmu di zaman Nabi Sulaiman dengan ilmu moden sekarang? Di manakah pertemuannya? Sekian, terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Thank you very much. Very difficult question. He was asking about the concept of time during the time of the Prophet Sulaiman, where the Balqis throne was brought to Sulaiman's castle or palace. I leave it to the scientists to answer this. Who wants to start first? Oh, shall we get? I collect the questions. Just one or two more, and that's it. We close it. I mean, in my chambers normally I say, okay, that's it. But this is an academic circle where I couldn't stop. You know, it's quite difficult. Yes, brother. Can you introduce yourself?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Zahid. I'm an economic student at United States. So, my question is about the destruction of technology innovation. Recent news, if you read that Stanford and some MIT and some other top school for computer science start offering moral or ethics classes for their under computer science department. So, my question for Prof. Dr. Noha Adli, can you share your findings or opinions or your approach to this problem? How do you see? And for example, like last month there is a gathering at California for technology company, and you can see the effect of social media, and one of the CEO of the company himself having PTSD after seeing the effect of YouTube to the young people. So, can you, Prof. Dr. Noha Adli, share how your education system in Alexandria University and your finding or approach to this issue? How do you tackle this issue? Thank you.
Brother, Prof couldn't get your question. Can you reiterate it in another form?
How do you tackle the issue of technology disruption? Like the negative effect of technology or computer science to the use or student. How do
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. One last one. If you don't question the panel, you feel you cannot sleep tonight. Okay. Yes, one last one.
My name is Abdul Rani Usman from Aceh, Indonesia. I have question how relationship, communication and leadership. My question for Dr. Noha and Haris Ahmad.
Okay, for Haris.
And how we prepare a good leader in the future.
Again. I think there's something wrong
How
with the
we
system.
prepare a good leader in the future.
Oh, how do you prepare good leaders in the future? Okay, thank you, brother. We got your point. Thank you very much. Okay, we give the floor to Prof. Haris first. Prof, please.
I will try to answer. I will try to answer the question as how I can. So the first question is very complicated because, as we know, as what has been said by the speaker this morning, which I'm very impressed, I'm very engrossed. In Quran, it has been mentioned that we have to constantly seek knowledge. In the early period of mankind, in the 19th century, we explained many physical observations using classical physics. That's electromagnetic wave. Along the way, we find that when we look at particles in the size of atom, we cannot explain by classical mechanics anymore. We have to look at quantum mechanics. So as we study the whole universe system, we find that there are more and more things to learn. And God has created the whole system with great complexity, very great complexity. How people try to mimic robots is they try to mimic human being actually, but still they cannot make as perfect as God created human actually. So when we understand the black hole is a super dense area where we find that anything will be absorbed into that in the area. So to answer my learned friend, the first question, like Balkis Palace, kan? I think I think there are a lot of things that we still need to understand. It is just moving in terms of time. If you look like how Muhammad masa Hijrah, kan? It's a Miraj. So people try to understand. It was being described on the bird and so on, but actually God travels. Muhammad traveled in, I think one conduit that God created, a very super high gravity that goes straight up in a very short most time, that even can violate Einstein's theory of relativity. There are a lot of things that we still do not understand how God made this world. Okay. Okay. The third question: how do we produce a great leader of the future? I think the most important thing is how we train the young mind. I think students, to me, are very important asset of any nation. They are very important. They are more important compared to gold or diamond. Because if you look at countries like Korea and Japan, they do not have natural resources. And they are major producer of many products and major economy of this world based on human human resource. Human to me are very important. The young mind are very important. So if we can train our young mind from the day they were in the kindergarten school, from school, we train them how to solve problems. We should not load them with so many things. What we have done in our system, we load with so many subjects, carry very heavy bag, so many books. They can never learn everything deep enough. So what I would like to suggest, we have to revisit our curriculum. Give them subjects that teach them to solve problems, to encourage critical thinking, and then have integration and collaboration and work together as a team at a very young age, at kindergarten, at primary school. And along the way, we nurture them. And eventually they become great entrepreneurs. Once they have this feeling to create business, to generate wealth, they become entrepreneurs and they become great innovators. I think everybody here can become great innovators. So I think we have to nurture the young mind itself as early as possible to become very creative, to innovate, and to become great thinkers. As I think we should give birth more people like Tan Sri Zulkifli.
Thank you. That's a very clever way of passing over the responsibility to answer. Tan Sri, please.
Okay, let me try and answer you in Bahasa first, and I will summarize in English. Soal daripada sama ada datang ilmu daripada Tuhan dengan ilmu daripada akal. Ini soal di antara apa yang kami panggil sebagai ilmu akli dengan nakli. Ya, bagaimana kita cantumkan kedua-dua itu, tapi jelas dalam pendidikan kita tidak langsung bercakap tentang ilmu nakli ini. Kita bercakap tentang science, the reason, the age of reason. And this is where science come about. At a point when science mengatakan bahawa kita manusia sudah boleh menyelesaikan masalah kita sendiri. Yeah? This is what I think titik tolaknya. Jadi bagi konteks saya, sebab tu saya masukkan soal kalbu tadi, kerana ini adalah tempat di mana saya percaya wahyu ataupun hikmah ataupun hidayah Tuhan akan turun. Selagi kita mesti tahu macam mana untuk mengasuh kalbu ni. Kalau tidak diasuh, tidak diajar dan tidak juga dijaga, kemungkinan tidak dapat wahyu ataupun hidayah Allah SWT itu. Dalam model kepimpinan yang ada, yang saya tahu, soal kalbu ni tidak ada disentuh langsung. Semuanya bersumberkan kepada akal, fikiran. Oleh itu ilmu yang dikatakan tadi tidak terjelma dalam konteks ini. Ya? Just to summarize very quickly, the answer is, where is revealed knowledge in this particular context that we are discussing? And my answer is basically, when you talk about science, we talk about knowledge of reasons. At the end of the day, the revealed knowledge is not even quantified in the search for knowledge as far as science is concerned. Perhaps in the next decade or so, now there's already a movement, what we call the post-materialist science, where people are beginning to talk about consciousness, people are beginning to talk about spirituality, people are beginning to talk about, intuition. These are the new things that comes in science, because science forever is about something that you can touch, something that you can measure, something that you can duplicate or repeat. And some of this we do not know in terms of consciousness, spirituality, and the rest of it is not ready for science yet. The same like what Haris is saying, the framework for science as far as some of these things is concerned is not ready. And therefore, when you talk about revealed knowledge, as it were, it is something that science would not recognize. And some people are even calling now, science has gone into a dogma, because they are not able to expand their paradigm to include other things which are intangibles. So the question that you asked to me is a relevant question, but for Islam, I think this is not a question, this is not something which is unusual. We believe there is this, what do you call, I call it wahyu, I don't know what in English, yeah? The kind of wisdom that we sometimes can inherit in the form of dreams or whatever it is, and that would be a kind of knowledge that we will recognize, and that knowledge perhaps could be seen as something that can be contributory to the knowledge, whether it's science, whether it's art, or whatever it is. And knowledge is knowledge. The difficulty with modern knowledge now, we have compartmentalized them to the extent that we do not know what this knowledge is all about. I mean, I remember Edward de Bono saying, the knowledge today is about digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. You deep so deep that you don't know where you start from. You don't see where your origin is, and you forgot what knowledge is all about. And I think this idea of what knowledge is needs again to be reinvestigated, and I do believe that knowledge needs to be converged. There's a conversion of knowledge at the moment in time. This arts and science is a false thing. The siloed thing that we talk about in schools is again something which cannot be defended as you go about to find solution. Look at global warming, for example. No one discipline can solve this problem of global warming. You need to come together into a multidisciplinary, better seen a transdisciplinary approach to solve this problem. So, wahyu ataupun soal akli-nakli ini adalah soal yang agaknya luar bidang dalam kita bercakap tentang sains pada hari ini. Thank you.
Perhaps that would justify for another conference in the future the meeting point of revealed knowledge and reason or logic. Okay, we move on to Prof. Noha, please.
Yes. Well, I understood that the question is about how technology affecting the students, and an example like YouTube. Well, as a matter of fact, I mean, technology, it's integrated now everywhere. And I think that students should leverage the use of technology as much as they can with whatever discipline that they are working on. You know, I mean, whether it is medicine, it's mechanical engineering, it is social science, it's whatever discipline, they would try to use technology as much as they can, and to leverage it in order to use it to innovate. You know, I mean, I'm following on Professor Abdulrazak, what he's saying. I mean, innovation and knowledge. This is, you know, I mean, technology will be an enabler for that, or the platform in order to achieve that. YouTube, for instance, I mean, if you YouTube has been used as a forum for something like the Khan Academy. And Khan Academy, how did it started? It started with a guy who was trying to teach math to his younger brother. And he was trying to show him, you know, to get to him to understand mathematics, and he was trying to find a way to teach it in a easy way for his brother to understand it. So he has done it in the form of like a video, and he uploaded it on the internet. And then it became, you know, I mean, it grew and grew and grew and grew. And, you know, I mean, so YouTube is a platform for something like that. Now there is full of channels that you can use on YouTube to be content creator, not only, you know, I mean, consumer of the data which is there. On another front, there is currently the emergence of the data science, which I was talking about in my talk, which is currently becoming programs in many universities, or in actually not many, but I mean universities are starting to have a curriculum for a data science degree, which is data science. It's what it's about. It's about computational and technology, along with other disciplines. So, and basically, data scientists are very, very rare to find, and actually, their salaries are the highest. Why? Because, you know, I mean, it's very, very rare to find someone who is, you know, I mean, very deep on a certain business, being, you know, I mean, economy, medicine, pharmacy, whatever business, and also deep in technology. And this is what they are trying to, trying to build, because as I mentioned, that it is currently there will be a convergence of the technologies, or the fusions of the technology merging together, the interdisciplinary approach in order to reach new outcomes. So technology can be used and will be affecting the students on so many levels, and it is up to the student and with the and to the, you know, I mean, how much he would like to learn and how much he can leverage this technology in order to be productive, to create, to have some new ideas and to implement those ideas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Noha. I've been told that our time is over, but I would like to summarize all the discussions today, is that every leadership journey is a journey of learning. When Nelson Mandela delivered his inauguration speech on 10th May 1994 as the President of South Africa, he talked about the person he had become and the journey he had walked in making his leadership dream of a new South Africa come true. For the panels today, combined with their experiences, I would say 100 years of experiences. 40, no, cumulatively, they have shared their leadership journey of learning, of which you will see that they had given focus, they had given structure, and they have given purpose. So, and we would like to make a statement that we do not want to be ordinary, we are not ordinary people, or mediocre, but that we want to be confident and credible. So this is the thing that we will bring home and share with you all today. Thank you very much to all the panelists and the time given to us and your attention. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. On behalf of the conference, I would like to thank the wonderful panel on Learners Today and Leaders Tomorrow, and for their most insightful and inspiring deliverance. And also to our professor moderator for so intelligently directing. Give them another round of applause. And I would now call upon the Secretary General of the conference to give away mementos to our panel of speakers and also the moderator. We call first Yeah, Tan Sri Zul. Moderator dulu. Okay. Okay, right. And then Professor Haris Ahmad. Yes. Professor Noha Adli. And Professor Dr. Zaliha. Thank you again very much. Now, we have a very short break after this for you to go and refresh yourself, have some coffee and tea. But please be back here at 4:45 for a very important session, and you do not want to miss it. Okay? The conference will be graced by a very, very important and highly reverend personnel. So please come back at 4:45 on time. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg of you, for those of you at the back, please move forward, fill up the seats in front, so that we look more civil. We are talking about civil society, so let us look more civil by applying what we know, what we have learned. Please fill up the seats in front, and we are about to start soon. Siapa itu? Uganda punya itu? Uganda punya.
Check, 1, 2.
Test 1, 2. Hey, 1, 2. Hey. Test. Hey, 1, 2, 2. Test 1, 2, 2. Hey, 1, 2. Cubaan 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Cubaan 1, 2, 3. Cubaan 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Cubaan 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our afternoon session. This will be the first special session, and it is why it's called special presentation. And for another, this is so special because we have a special guest. Our next session will be presented by the Honorable Dr. Ali Muwabbe Kirunda Kevejinja, who is the second Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of East African Community Affairs from Uganda. And to lead the way to what I anticipate as a very interesting discussion and presentation will be Dr. Saroja Devi Doranaju. So Dr. Saroja Devi, without much ado, take it away. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to this special presentation session on Learners Today, Leaders Tomorrow. As you may note from the schedule, there is a change in our current speaker lineup because of parliamentary sitting yesterday. The Honorable Yang Berhormat Dr. Mazli Malik, Minister of Education of Malaysia, is not able to join us. So today we have a sole speaker, the distinguished Right Honorable Dr. Al-Haji Kirunda Kevejinja, who is the second Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda. Now, I have here with me Dr. Kevejinja's CV, and I must say it reads like a book. So if I were to go through it, it'll take me a full 30 minutes, I think. So, so as a result, I'm just going to shorten some of the things that I have here. All I want to say is that we are truly in the presence of an all-grounded human being with so much experience in living life in diverse situations. Dr. Kevejinja was educated in Uganda, and later on he went to India for his university education. I note that he got his bachelor's in a university in Madras, South India, which is where my paternal grandfather hails from. And then he went on to do graduate work in New Delhi. He has had dealings with the Chinese government and with the US, and he's also, as a politician, spent years of exile in Kenya and in Austria during the war in Uganda in the early 1980s. Since his return to peaceful Uganda, he has been vice chairperson of the Islamic University of Uganda Council. He was actually responsible for transforming the university from an institution with only 80 students in 1988 to one of over 10,000 students on 4 campuses. So we have here a practitioner of education who really led the way in transforming education, and in particular Islamic education in Uganda. He's also a politician, having been engaged in Ugandan politics. He was a founding member of the Ugandan People's Congress, even when he was a student in India. And from there, he had held many portfolios in the government. In 2006, he was appointed as the 3rd Deputy Prime Minister, and in 2016, he was appointed as the 2nd Deputy Prime Minister, a post that he holds right now. So today, he brings to us his vast experience as a politician, a freedom fighter, an educator, and a socially conscientious Muslim, looking to the beauty and progressive wisdom of Islam to secure our future. May I call upon the Honorable Dr. Al-Haji Kirunda Kivejinja to address us. Thank you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Your Excellencies, the organizers, presenters, and the participants in this conference, the Vice Chancellor, University Council, management and staff of Sultan Azlam Shah University, diplomats, dignitaries in your respective capacities, youths and leaders of Islamic thought and civilization, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It gives me great pleasure to participate in this 5th World Conference on Islamic Thought and Civilization. It is a great honor not only to me as a person who has been historically keen to the development of the Islamic University, but also to the people of Uganda as a nation. There is no doubt that Islamic civilization is about securing the future in a multicultural and a multi-ideological world with all types of people. This can be done by understanding the past history, where we have come from, and realizing that each generation has got its own challenges. The key characteristics of the present generation of learners, most of you are learners, and for me, I'm presenting myself just to remind you that I was once like you, very keen learner, I sought knowledge as far as India. I had to cross by boat, by ship. I spent 12 days, and I vomited and I lost my weight, which I never gained by the time I was in India. So definitely I represent what you should be your ambition. As a student, I learned. And they've told you that I learned for my training zoology with botany and chemistry. So when the presenter here was saying, science is the key, I knew. But I did not practice science because there was the need of the time of throwing away the British from our country. So I took up freedom fighting as a full-time and lifelong opportunity, and this has been my only job and occupation. So I have moved from you to, I have practiced differently because I learned when I was in India. I learned also other things, and I have been able to move that long journey which Mandela also passed. So you'll find that the present intellectuals, by then, we were not very many. I'll take my country, for example. We had only 500 people with O level and 103 graduates. And only 2 of us were Muslims, and I'm one of them. My other colleague died. So I am still being preserved by Allah to be able to be in front of you, especially the younger fellows, to inspire you that you can actually move the world if you decide to do so. The key characteristics, because we must understand the learners of today. Most of you are the learners of today. For the present generation of learners, as leaders of tomorrow. The characteristics of you is lack of education and the general unemployment by the majority of youths. This is especially in Africa, and this has made a number of doors closed to Muslim youth. The closed doors have also closed the links and the potential for them to gain wealth, tackle ignorance and disease. 2, lack of scientific and practical skills by the majority of youths. Skilled people are rarely poor because they have skills which can earn them wealth and lead with knowledge. The presentation this afternoon by the learned professors, they were talking of those who have had access to universities. Somehow they may drop because the things they are teaching don't rhyme into their heads, but they are learned to a certain extent. But in Africa, and a great part of the Islamic world, there are students, children still at home who don't have education. Lack of scientific and practical skills by the majority of the youth. Lack of motivation. Most of the youth lack motivation to constantly seek out new opportunities or to excel at what they are currently doing, which makes them disempowered. Illiteracy. Most of the youth, especially in Africa, cannot read or write, and they are consequently disempowered, which makes them remain followers, but not leaders in their lifetime. Historical disempowerment of the ancestors. Most of Muslims live in areas where the forefathers and the parents were disempowered, and this means that the current youth in those areas cannot create wealth to their cushion themselves against poverty or climb up the financial ladder. The sixth, the current youth behavior and attitude. The majority of the youth who are located in either remote areas, small towns, or in slums of larger cities do nothing productive other than watching football. You might have seen these ones during the heavy season of the World Cup. Football matches and betting. This has made them vulnerable to all other vices that cannot allow them to work responsibly and access leadership. In light of the above, therefore, the intellectuals of today, who are the professors who have been addressing us here, have preoccupy themselves with identifying the behavioral qualities, personal characteristics, and the productivity roles of the Muslim learner to comfortably become the leaders of tomorrow. You cannot proactively lead without responsible followers, and the followers must be able to understand not only the path but also the destiny as emphasized by the Holy Quran and the Hadith. The Prophet of Islam was a leader who influenced mankind throughout the world beyond his generation, country of origin and race. He was a model leader with the best example to the Ummah and remains the most influential figure in the world. We have been able to lead and bring leadership at this level because we understood the environment. You can imagine, I could claim to be the youngest man in this conference because I'm only 83 years young. And the professors who have been here are a product of independence. So you can see I am still around, and therefore it is an inspiration that I better, because what I'm giving you is a practical experience. We understood the environmental, economic, political, and social characteristics in which we are operating. I challenge all the intellectuals in this conference to put your heads together and find solutions to enable the present learners to be the leaders of tomorrow, to resolve these challenges. Because they gave us a good part of theory and whatnot, but these are the challenges. Unless they are resolved, and there is no leadership without intellectual leadership, and this is the conference of intellectual, Muslim intellectuals and civilization. They should take that as their beat. Low income, the level of income is very low. Most of these people can earn less than $1.5 per day or not at all. Hence the inability to attain the daily expenditure. Housing conditions. The housing condition is very bad due to the large family size and the displacement because of wars and the like. There is always overcrowding in households. All family members have to live in a limited space and without modern facilities like electricity, water, and physical facilities. The problems, as I said, the third problem is expenditure pattern. Most people in our countries consume more than what their income is, and instead of saving, loan is required for consumption. 4, lower educational status. The high illiteracy rate is either due to ignorance or poverty or both. They can get educational opportunities and they are not capable of providing quality education to their children and relatives. Occupation. The occupation of our people is generally subsistence agriculture. Majority of them do not have their own land. They are compelled to do work at low wage rate, so some become beggars, garbage shifters, etc., etc. Weak physical and mental conditions. The majority of the poor are unable to get the basics of life for themselves, especially food, health facilities, which continuously make them physically and mentally weak. These are the characteristics on which I challenge the 5th World Conference on Islamic Thought and Civilization to focus and find solutions so that you as intellectuals here are able to demonstrate that you are producers of solutions that can give the expected intellectual leadership to our present-day learners to become the leaders of tomorrow in whatever field they choose. We therefore need to assess and evaluate our current self-strengths and a plan for future self-reliance so as to have a life of dignity that can enable our people to worship with independence and make productive decisions on their own. In order to do so, you need to provide the required intellectual teaching material that will guide the leaders of tomorrow to effectively provide solutions and ensure that all the youth are positively engaged in productive activities that will ensure prosperity for all. It is also our time to put our people back to work and open doors of opportunities for our children and grandchildren, restore prosperity, and promote the cause of Islamic civilization. The channels they have told us here of using IT renovations can only be done to somebody who is educated. In order to do the above, you need a range of human assets and social capabilities to increase your well-being in the present dynamic, competitive world environment. Human capabilities include good health, education, and production or other life-enhancing skills. These will produce the required social capabilities such as social belonging, leadership, relationship of trust, a sense of identity, and a value that gives meaning to life, as well as the capacity to organize. These are key pillars in empowering learners of today to be leaders of tomorrow, so that our communities can address the historical imbalance that was intentionally created by our colonial masters. Lastly, learners of today should not be occupied with acquiring wealth without work. The examples we have received here is that we have seen people who have created wealth out of nothing. But with acquiring knowledge of value, with character, practicing commerce with a high moral index, and going into politics with principles, there must be solidarity, networking, and a progressive discovery of our own ignorance through serious education of Muslims in all continents. You are challenged to assist those who are in desperate need, the urgent seekers of your assistance, and those who are living in objective poverty mindset was so that when you become leaders of tomorrow, your vision is clear, ambition inspired, and a success achieved worldwide. Finally, I thank all of you for listening and the organizers of this conference for inviting me. I wish you success and ask you to come out with practical resolutions to be reported to upon in the next conference. Because this is a challenge. This is a conference of Muslim intellectuals and civilization. Now you are not going to reclaim that glory of your past without preparing the present-day learners with the qualities that will be able to meet these challenges. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of you abundantly. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I've checked with His Honorable and he says he's okay. I think we will continue some discussion right now. When I talked to His Honorable yesterday about his presentation, he had expressed hope that he will have a lot of interaction with the audience. He said, my purpose here, as a learned Muslim intellectual is to engage with people here that I've come to meet and exchange ideas and to move forward this journey where we secure the future for Muslims and for the world. So he had expressed hope that all of you will actually engage with him. So I want to, at this stage, invite many of you in this audience to actually engage with the speaker here and bring questions that you have. Today you have seen, or these past 2 days, you have actually been graced, been blessed with intellectual offerings by people with amazing backgrounds, amazing histories, amazing intellect, amazing wisdom that we all can tap into. And if you notice today's subject on learners today, leaders tomorrow, we're really talking about young people. So as young people, I hope we will, at least in this session, hear your voice. One of the things, if I may, as the moderator, say certain things to actually invite, maybe even provoke some kind of discussion here, is that I notice that in these sessions we've been telling you how to become a leader. Now you all are young people, you are sitting there in the audience. If I were a young person myself, and there was many, many, many years ago, I have lost count. If I'm a young person myself, I will ask, why are you asking me to be a leader? Is it a gargantuan task that you are putting upon me? Why? Why should I become a leader? You've just spoken to me about becoming a leader of tomorrow, and you've just told me, you know, there are certain qualities that you need to become a leader. You have heard us tell you how to be a leader, what to do, what attitudes you have to adopt, what kind of hard work you have to espouse. Here we are telling you all these things based on the fact that we are teachers, but we were students once. We were learners once. What were our thoughts then? As His Honorable pointed out, in Africa, one of the current youth behavior is watching football and, you know, not going beyond that. Is it wrong to watch football? All of us get excited by the World Cup, right? We were all rooting for the underdog, Croatia, but, you know, France won, which is also a good thing because then we told France, you know, stop your racism, stop your Islamophobia, because several of your players were Africans and several of them were Muslims. So it is a good thing that this multiracial France won. So right there on that field is young people who are able, hopefully, to change, to secure the future in that little way by kicking around a ball on that field and causing, hopefully, attitudes to change. I don't know if you remember, there's the young man from Africa who had scaled a building in Paris to rescue a child that was dangling from a building. And that's when the media frenzy started, and they started saying, wow, these are the kind of immigrants we need. Until then, they were actually bashing African immigrants into France. But suddenly, when the good immigrant comes about, they are all become accepting of these people. But for me, when I look at that, these are people who are practicing their religion on a daily basis. Do we have to have big goals, big dreams, or do we actually practice our ideology, our religion in our everyday lives? Islam, as we know, is more than a religion. I just was looking at Facebook just now, and one of my students, former students, had posted a clip from a slide that where she was attending a presentation in the US where the speaker had said, there is no such thing as religion. So the immediate reaction was, you know, why? Why is there no such thing as religion? His argument was that religion was becoming privatized. So because of that, there is no such thing as religion. So in this fight that we are having to define religion, as His Honorable has so clearly put it, in this fight, how do we then practice our religion? Is it because it's becoming privatized, it's becoming individualized, it's no longer religion? And what about the status of Islam, since we are on a conference on Islamic thought and civilization? What about Islam? Can we define Islam as a religion in the Western sense? Is Islam a mere ideology in the Western sense. The West, or a lot of Western thinkers keep saying, the problem with Islam today is there is no separation between state and church, in this case, state and religion. But how can you separate Islam from your lives when Islam is a deen? It's a way of life. You cannot separate yourself from the way you live. So if that's the case, how do we use Islam as a way of securing the future? And you have had great teachers today who have given you some program, right? Or program to move forward. Now I invite you people, young people, to tell us, to give us your sense of what it means. How do you secure your future for ourselves? Because when you secure your future, you're securing not just your future, you're securing the earth's future. And for me, as a scholar of Islam, I believe that Islam has that beautiful capacities to secure the future. Maybe in a later, next year's presentation, I'll talk about it in a paper. But for you young people, because you are confronted with this every day, you come to such conferences with such eminent people like His Honorable, actually traveling all the way from Uganda to come and address you, and you are privileged to have this knowledge, to listen to such people. So what are your thoughts? What do you think? How do you then use these formulas, if we want to call it that, that we have heard here to secure your future? What kind of questions do you have? What kind of worries do you have? Are you worried? Or would you rather sit and watch the World Cup, which is not a bad thing to do, because you learn a lot watching football. 12 men chasing a ball across the field says a lot, actually. In fact, as you know, football is all about politics. It's all about identity. One of the things that the colonial government did was to use sports as a way of creating a national identity, so sports is never a bad thing. So what questions do you have? Well, I've spoken much, but I'm speaking as a way of introducing this topic and as a way for you to engage with our eminence. I really welcome questions from you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Please introduce yourself.
I'm sorry karena tidak ada yang bertanya, saya bertanya. I have one question. Jadi, leadership is value, culture and art. But how different leader between Southeast Asia and Africa or others? How different leader? You know what I mean? Okay. I think some country, very strong leader, like Singapore, for example, US, China. I want to know how Islam leader next time. I think right now, strong leader in US, Xi Jinping every day, dialogue, both politics and economy. How about Islam leader next time? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. First of all, I have, in preparing these small notes, I was following what was the topic. First of all, I knew that this was a world conference on Islamic thought and civilization. And under the topic I was supposed to address was what was started on by the professors that were here. Learners of today and leaders of tomorrow. They were university professors from universities articulating what the universities should teach to get the products that will provide leadership in the different bottlenecks that prohibit that are characteristic of this generation. And on the African experience is that you may be surprised that Uganda at independence had a greater GDP than South Korea, than Singapore, than Malaysia. But because we have had a very long history, first of all, in Africa, we had 400 years of slave trade, whereby as soon as the Industrial Revolution took place and steamer engines were brought, then they discovered that they had to develop America. They came and traded in that, and they accumulated wealth out of that trade, which made Europe superior. Now, when the Industrial Revolution came, they found that the tractors are less troublesome than the slaves. So they entered into the game of abolishing slavery so that industrialization in Europe is accelerated, and America. And then they were faced with situations of creating markets and raw materials. So this time, instead of using the slave trade as a means of exploitation of Africa, they came for direct colonialism. That has got a lot of, so you find that the personality of the African was completely deformed. And the struggle for independence, which was joined by Asia and Africa, came in at a specific stage, and when they went, we were still vulnerable. And the leaders you had, we used to have them almost every other morning. At one stage, the whole of Africa was swept by military coups, engineered again by the forces, because they only made a retreat. So it has been, for example, in Uganda, we have had a lot of problems. We got our ideas of independence from India, and we went. But some could not be able to make it. I am the only one surviving with the new generation. So you find that the leaders in Africa has had constant problems. And then the Islamic world, you saw what happened to the Arab Spring. Even the stable states like Egypt, which is the cradle of civilization, was not spared. Libya was not spared. Now, Syria, you see what is happening. So definitely, Afghanistan, you know what is happening. So you find that the majority, I was trying to bring to you that these situations of the young learners is actually a big problem. And we need the intellectuals to be able to formulate out methods how to produce the present leaders, not leaders in the form of countries, but leaders of skills which can make them independent. And that's the message I wanted to draw. Because now you come here, you say leaders. You cannot all be prime ministers of Malaysia. But you can be leaders in the skills of your own, which you have created because of the circumstances. So I think that was the experience I wanted to bring to you. so that you can be able to appreciate and know that when you have crossed the bridge and there's brothers on the other side, you must be able to find solutions to them.
Thank you, Your Honourable. More questions? Thank you.
Hello, I am Nur Nafisa from USAS. So my question is there any difference between a male leader and a female leader? If so, what is it?
No, there is no difference at all. On the contrary, for us, we have attained some stability after so much turmoil in Uganda. Because when we were struggling for the struggle against bad leadership, we formulated and realized and put into practice that we need all people to come together. As a result, we brought the women from the kitchen, and they are part of the leadership. We brought the youth to be part of the leadership, the workers to be part of the leadership. And as a result, we have won 30 years of stability, which has never happened. And now I can show you the High Commissioner of Uganda was my former Secretary General of the ruling party. And we had the Vice President, the first woman Vice President in the whole of Africa. We have got the Speaker of the National Assembly. So there is no question. They are all human beings under God in the Quran, never distinguished. It's different roles, but does not mean to say that the brains cannot be able to provide solutions.
Thank you, Honourable. More questions, please? Yes.
Hello. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Ishamuddin Basabah from Putrajaya. As a youth of this nation, we just want our voice to be appreciated of the senior, and we need the chance to be a part of the team player led by senior. We, as a youth, don't want the senior just say, you are only youth and just follow us, and cannot be an opportunity to me being a part of the senior. So my question to Mr. Deputy Prime Minister of Uganda, I never go to Uganda, but I only knew Uganda is one of the country in Africa. As a Deputy Prime Minister of Uganda, I want to know how the Uganda government manage and give the youth in Uganda an opportunity to contribute your country from third world country to developed country. That's all. Thank you.
Now, we came up with a number of policies. One is the all-inclusive, so that we put our brains together. The youth have got a certain quota, even in parliament. The women have got a positive action. The women, even at the university, for them to be able to enter, they are given an extra point so that they are more in the parliament. And then with the, we have introduced universal primary education so that all children of the nation are educated. And then we have regular elections, with the result that presently more than, I think, 4/5 of parliament is composed of youth. And the women, they are, even in cabinet, they are more than half. So I think in fact, we are there, just a few, just to try and guide them how to manage their own society.
I think what His Honorable has explained to us really shows that one of the things that Uganda seems to be focusing on is equity. You know, we need to focus on equity rather than the notion of equality. Equality doesn't give, doesn't actually make people equal. It's equity. So to have a parliament where 4/5 of parliament is composed of youth says a lot, and to have a lot of women in parliament is also very, you know, it's very gratifying to hear that coming from His Honorable. So I think that is something that we can also work towards, focus on the notion of equity. Thank you. I see another person there who has a question.
Hello, my name is Ain. My question is about many people like to lead, but not many are good at it. How to lead a group with many other leaders? Thank you.
I'm sorry, if you could repeat your question, thank you.
How to lead a group with many other leaders?
How to lead a group with many other?
Leaders.
Leaders.
I have analyzed the challenges because a leader should be able to organize the people to overcome a challenge. Otherwise, there is no need for a leader just to become a leader. You must be able to solve problems. And I have put you the challenges, unless you think I have not covered. I said lack of education, lack of scientific and practical skills, lack of motivation, lack of illiteracy, historical disempowerment, current youth behavior and attitudes. These are the challenges of the time. Now, each has got a challenge. And I'm challenging your professors and whatnot to think out how they can be able to teach you to solve these problems, so that you can live in this world when you are completely able to manage your affairs and be independent and think without following. So we need, these are all, don't think that any person you elect as a leader will be able to think out these problems. But we want him to produce a system that will attend to lack of education, produce the lack of scientific and practical skills, produce the syllabus for lack of motivation among students, literacy, historical disempowerment, and the current youth behavior. So all those are different types of leaders, of leaderships. Therefore, when you think of leader as if you are thinking of a president or a prime minister of a country. But the universities and the intellectuals should be able to demarcate that our present-day learners, these should be the inputs that will make them leaders in their own fields.
So I think His Honorable has answered your question and the former question by the young man on diversity. How do we actually understand and accept diversity in leadership too? Because as I mentioned earlier, there is no one single formula to create a successful leader. There is diversity, and we have to recognize this diversity because people come with diverse skills. How do people develop their diverse skills in order to become a leader in their own right? I think that's very important, and His Honourable has actually, based on his own experience with years in politics, seen that, and he's sharing that with you. Thank you. Next question, please.
Me, please. In your opinion, how can youth who want to go study abroad can do to confront prejudice and criticism when they study abroad? And I have my own curiosity. What do you think about young people named Sam Okir? Do you?
What do you think of young people?
There is a man that I know when I browse internet, named Sam Okir.
Sam O'Keefe?
Do you,
I'm not familiar.
There is a young man named Sam O'Keefe. Are you familiar with this young man?
Could you tell us more about this young man?
He is a personality in Korea, but
yes.
Dalam bahasa Melayu.
I can just give you a joke that I am BBC, born before computer. Therefore, I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter. But it is you might have found them on the Twitter. And you have got more information about them than I have. But I only give you my practical experience, okay? From my home, how I studied, how I came up, and what I went, and where I am. Now I am organizing the new generations to fit their problems, to solve their problems. Because I will not be here, and definitely it is for the learners of today to become leaders of tomorrow.
Yes, you can continue your question.
Dia adalah dia wawarkan tentang negara di yang berdekatan dengan Uganda juga. Tapi lepas dia kumpulkan dana, dia bina sekolah dekat negara dia.
Okay.
If I may help, ask the question in Malay and I will translate it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Tapi dengan bahasa Melayu yang baik, supaya saya faham.
Pada pendapat Tuan, bagaimana remaja sekarang yang nak belajar di luar negara berdepan dengan kritisisme dan prejudis apabila belajar di sana, dan pada...
Okey, satu dulu. Itu dah dijawab belum?
Belum.
Belum. Okay, the first question, Your Honourable, she said, how does the young who intends to study abroad overcome criticism and prejudices that he or she may encounter at in the host country?
I think one of my jobs is that I want to connect the world, especially the Muslim world. If people want to study in my country, I think we can organize. We can have an exchange program so that you have also the experience there. Because ultimately you will have to deal with the world. And it's better you know them. And the opportunities, at least in my country, are there.
Okay, thank you. Faham tidak? Okey, soalan kedua.
Ini saya punya curiosity. Pendapat tentang Sam Okiri yang tadi tu. Sam Okiri.
Saya pun tak faham.
Nama orang tu Sam Okiri.
Sam?
Okiri.
Okili?
Ya.
Okey, jadi soalan dia apa? Kenapa dengan Sam Okili?
Tak, pendapat Tuan tentang seorang pemuda yang dia belajar dekat luar negara.
Jordan?
Bukan, kat Korea. Okay.
Australia?
Korea.
Oh, Korea. Okay.
Tapi dia jadi macam personality macam tu. Lepas tu dia war-warkan tentang negara dia dan dia kumpulkan duit dan bina dan dana bina sekolah dekat negara dia.
Prof. Zatul, saya pun tak faham Prof. Zatul. I don't understand the Malay.
Okay, I will try to translate. What is your opinion, okay, on a guy named Sam Okili, is it? Sam Okili, who studied in Korea, whereby when he went back to his country, he started to like having crowdfunding and start off schools at his home area in his country. Betul? Sam Okili? Sam Okili.
Sam Okili.
Yeah, your opinion on this guy named Sam Okili, who studied in Korea, whereby he started a crowdfunding and started to build up schools, okay, in his country. But I myself also is not familiar with the guy named Sam Okili.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I translate your question? Are you trying to ask, is crowdfunding okay? Is it okay to crowdfund in order to start a school? Is that your question? I'm trying to read you well.
Okay, I'm so sorry. There is this young chap. His name is Samuel Okere. I think, I don't know. It's Okyere, a Ghanaian youth from Ghana.
Ghanaian youth.
Yes, he's a Ghanaian. And he happens to be a Ghanaian TV personality who's active in Korea, South Korea and Ghana.
Yeah.
He was accepted into the Korean government scholarship program in 2009 and moved to Korea to study computer science in Seoul. What is your take on him? What's your opinion about him?
I have tried to tell you that the different Muslim youth in different countries, or even in Africa, not only Muslims, we have problems of education. And definitely we go out to seek what is not available at home. So getting scholarships to Korea is not news, because people even come here. We've got Ugandans here to acquire knowledge and then go back. And two, we need also to know your world. Ghana is on the west coast of Africa. There are thousands of miles separating me from Ghana. Africa is a big continent, just as Malaysia is with Asia. When you ask somebody, although about Kashmir and the problems there, you may not be able to know exactly what happened. But what I have seen, what I have heard, is that he left Ghana, went to Korea, and then from Korea he acquired knowledge and went back. Is that what you say? Is that true? Now, I don't know whether you're asking whether I know what he is doing or how successful he is. I can tell you that it is too far, I don't know. If it is in Uganda, I will definitely be able to trace it. But Ghana is very, very far from. I'm in the center of Africa, and this is in the east, in the west, on the Pacific, the Atlantic rather.
Okay. I think the young lady, her first question was very pertinent. I felt that it was a searching question. Maybe we should put it out here. Her question was, you know, how do you deal with the prejudices that you encounter when you go to another country, to another system altogether to study? I think she's a young lady, and as a woman, and as a Muslim woman, and as a hijabi, there will be many issues confronting her if she goes to a non-Muslim country, like in the United States, for example, to study. And these are all challenges. These are very, very pertinent. This is a very pertinent question, and it's a very searching question, searching for answers. How do we deal with it? I was a woman, I'm a woman, and I also once went to the United States to study as a young Asian woman, and I met a lot of challenges. And how do we deal with it in this present day and age? And in her case, as a Muslim woman, as a hijabi, I think it's a very pertinent question, and it's something, it's a huge challenge, I think, that you face, especially since 9/11 and with the rise of Islamophobia in the Western world. So how do we deal with such a situation? What kind of tools can we provide for our young people? You know, social ammunition to not just protect themselves, but also in a hopeful way to educate the other about Islam, about the positive messages in Islam, that Islam is not just a terrorist, it's not a terrorist religion, and you know, the social messages in Islam are actually very, very pertinent, relevant, and in the current day, and also very, very universal. So that could be a question that His Honorable could take.
Well, I think because he said one of the communication is that you must communicate and you must link up. So if you want to take students out, let them be properly in the proper channels. They should not adventure. Because even for me to go to India, I did not adventure. I went as a group because we were given scholarships. When we went there, we formed our association, and we were able to learn both in class and outside class. So, and we knew how to behave and then go back to apply the knowledge we've acquired to solve problems at home. So I think even here, if they want to go outside, they should do. Government or organization should be the one in charge.
Thank you. More questions, please? Yes. I must say that I'm really happy to see so many women come up and ask questions today. Thank you.
Younger girls.
Thank you. I must say I'm not representing the younger generation, Your Excellency. I'm Halima. I'm from the Perak Malay Chamber of Commerce. So thank you, Excellency, that you came all the way from Uganda to participate in our session today, and we appreciate it so much. I just want to emphasize here, perhaps not so many of us here know about Uganda. I think, you know, because our distance are quite a bit, and also there's not so much relation between our two countries. So since you have also visited Malaysia now, and we look forward for your many visits in the future, and it's very important, perhaps we could really strengthen the relation between Uganda and Malaysia. But a little bit of, perhaps I can emphasize here, the relation perhaps could be much larger in the future. What you have now is that in terms of education, you have about 200 Ugandan students now study in Malaysia. And also, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ling Kok Wing University will be also going into Uganda very soon. So there's quite a bit of education cooperation in that sense. So I just want to ask you, Your Excellency, since you are very much experienced with all sorts of designation that you have in Uganda, what do you think that perhaps we could really look into a very strategic relation between Uganda and Malaysia, not only in terms of leadership, education and all that, but in terms of the things that we could learn. perhaps we could learn from you in terms of your experience and also your cooperation with other African countries. And Malaysia also, perhaps we could really cooperate with you in terms of our strength as a country, perhaps very much have quite a lot of achievement in the ASEAN country, Asia, and also in ASEAN, in that sense. So please, share your opinion in this aspect. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. In the first place, we established an embassy, and the ambassador is here. Can you please be visible to all the fellows? Now, that is the ambassador. We have got an embassy in Kuala Lumpur. You can be able to ask any question and it will be answered about Uganda. Secondly, one of my jobs is, of course, I came here to address this intellectual conference, but also I came here to establish business links and talk about the investment opportunities in the country, which the Malaysians can easily take advantage of, so that we have got mutual people moving up and down. And apart from being a deputy prime minister, I'm also the chairman of the East African community, because the countries of Tanzania, Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda, Kenya, and South Sudan decided to form a regional bloc with about 170 million people. Now, we have been having trade between Malaysia and Uganda, but not in an organized way. Now, we want serious investors to come and we enter into agreements so that our trade now moves smoothly on either side. So I think as we move like that, we shall discover what we want from each other in an organized way, and we shall be able to prosper by that trade. So I have, on the educational side, she has told me, told you, that we have got now a total of about 200 students. Some are here on government scholarships, some come on their own. So already that is a channel. I think I have got one who teaches in one of the. Can you stand up? You can talk to them in their language.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nama saya Rashid, Dr. Rashid Abdul Hamid Kirembwe, pensyarah kanan University Sains Islam Malaysia, Fakulti Pengajian Bahasa Utama. Sudah lama dah duduk Malaysia ni, awal-awal saya datang sebagai pelajar UIA, masa duduk ke PJ. Lepas tu pindah Gombak, lepas tu ambil PhD UPM Serdang. Sekarang ni saya bekerja sebagai pensyarah USIM dalam Fakulti Pengajian Bahasa Utama, Seksyen Pendidikan. Terima kasih.
I can give you another one, who is the Vice Rector of the Islamic University in Uganda. He also studied within this region.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya itu senang sekali karena saya sudah sampai di Malaysia. Saya dulu belajar di Indonesia, Universitas Gajah Mada, ambil S3 di sana. Jadi Saya itu keluarga, bagian keluarga saya di Asia sini. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Right Honorable Dr. Ali, Dr. Saroja Dewi, allow me to give a few points of my experience to all the younger generation students today. These are the people what we call learners today are leaders tomorrow. I believe Right Honorable Dr. Ali and myself, we've gone through the same school of thought. We've gone through the mill. My advice is, you can go anywhere in the world and learn. The only thing you must have, the confidence of yourself. Build up your confidence. Build up your knowledge. Build up the language. I am trying to tell my experience that I'm the first Malaysian to go to China and learn. I was blind. I was deaf. I was mute. The reason why I'm blind, I couldn't read Chinese. The reason why I'm mute, I couldn't speak Chinese. The reason I'm deaf, I don't understand Chinese. But this is a challenge in life. We must be confident, although there are a lot of critics. When I went to China in 1998, China is still an alien. Can you imagine? I was in the military for 20 years. I'm a soldier. I'm not a freedom fighter, Ali. But this is where we call it ourselves. Kita mesti boleh flexibility dan mengubah pendirian kita untuk survival. Inilah jati diri untuk orang Melayu kita. But I'm sad to say, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. For example, if you want to ask a question, you must be sure what you want to know. Jadi inilah elemen-elemen dia. Tuan-tuan dah lihat, perempuan dah lihat, 2 orang daripada Uganda boleh berbahasa Melayu. Datuk nenek kita pesan, bahasa menunjukkan bangsa. Kalau kita tidak boleh berbahasa, kita bukan bangsa tu. Jadi kerana mereka berdua boleh berbahasa Melayu, mereka jadi orang Melayu. Jadi kalau kita ingat kita mau melangkau, if we want to cross over to somewhere, be prepared ourselves with this knowledge. Communication is very important, the language of it. You can ask Dr. Ali how, as a freedom fighter, move from Uganda to India, Pakistan, everywhere. How they need the support is communication. So build up your communication strength. So here we take initiative to work together with the ambassadors and all the Ugandan people to come to integrate with Malaysia because of the potential of the market, as what Dr. Ali has mentioned. Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania are going to be another block of Africa. Can you imagine the potential that young generation like you all going to be there? I mean, you're going to be the leaders of industry, the captain of industry. So we focus. Leader doesn't mean that you must be a political leader. You started. Leaders are groomed. Leaders are not born. Leaders are groomed. Even the prophet also groomed from the grandfathers until to a stage that he become a prophet. That same thing goes to every one of us. So, Right Honorable Excellency Dr. Ali, I should allow you to have some other word to thank, to brief all our young learned students how life should be. We can share again about our experience that we've gone through in other sessions in the university. Because we are here to build up the younger generation to face the future. You must not lose our confidence. We must not lose our value. You are here because you have value. You are here because you have confidence. But you must wake up and tell yourself, I am here to be a leader. Okay?
Finally, this is mainly an audience of young people. I would have said that actually the role of preparing the young is the job of the elders. And the elders who are here and the young fellows who are here demand prime time for your parents to stay with you, impart morals about you, and also let them teach that there is also God, who is the master of everything. Once those are taken from your home, you will turn up to know that you can go anywhere, you will not be a burden, and you will be an asset. You are lucky, many of you are at the university, so I am sure if you take the lessons that have been preached here, you do your job to study and know everything you can study, not only what your exams requires you to pass. Because as I said, I did zoology, but I ended up as a freedom fighter. I'm now a prime minister. So you find that what you studied may not have any relevance, but it is only intended to open up your mind so that any idea that comes can easily be received and you can renovate it and you can create. If you are the pioneers, you will be the leaders of those who will follow you. Thank you very much.
We've come to the end of our session here. I just want to conclude by saying that when we started this session, Dr. Roslan said he had one question for His Honorable. How do we secure the future, which is the main theme of this conference also? And here His Honorable has given us African offerings, our African father, our African brothers, our African sisters have shown us how they are doing it from an African perspective. From Uganda, a country that had faced slavery, and then war, and then colonialism and anti-colonialism, and we have it in the form of a freedom fighter who's seen everything. And now he has come to Malaysia to build bridges to continue to secure the future even further. Now, building bridge is very important, and some of you young people had the question, how do we secure our future when we go on to confront different people, differences? And as the professor so clearly pointed out, communication is important. When you travel, you must learn to communicate. You must learn to know the language. And I want to end off with what His Honorable has said. You build bridges, and you cross these bridges, right? But when you cross your bridge, you encounter brothers and sisters on the other side. So with that positive note, let me thank all of you for attending this session, and let me thank His Honorable for bringing about such a great discussion. Thank you. Thank you.
Once again, just hang on for a while. Once again, on behalf of the conference, we would like to thank the Honorable Dr. Ali Muwabbe for a very wonderful, insightful sharing of experience with us, and also for Dr. Saroja Devi for the moderating the session. And with that note, I would like to call upon our Vice Chancellor of the University, Sultan Azlan Shah, to give a token of memento to the Honorable Dr. Ali. Please. First to Dr. Ali Muwabbe. Thank you, Doctor. And next to Dr. Saroja Devi. And please, once again, give them a round of applause. Thank you so much, Tan Sri Professor. For a group photo, maybe? Tak apa, di bawah aja. Ji, di bawah aja, Ji. Dr. Saroja. Yeah. I'll get that for you. They want a group photo. Please, I have two announcements before you leave. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Now, there are two very important announcements. The first concerning the speakers and moderators and those who are invited. There will be a dinner tonight hosted by the Chief Minister of Perak. It's okay, I just continue making the announcement. For those who are invited, please assemble at the hotel lobby tonight by 7:45. A bus will be here to shuttle you from this hotel to the Menteri Besar's home, and please do not be late because the bus will leave on time. 7:45 p.m. again, those who are invited for tonight's dinner at the Menteri Besar home, please assemble at the hotel lobby. The next announcement is our session tomorrow starts at 8:30. Please do not be late, please come. We have a very interesting session tomorrow. Again, have a good rest, have a good night to all of you, and thank you for your participation.